Bird. Barbara, that's a ball. Get away, Baldy! Yeah!
Oh, well, good evening, and good evening. This is The Wort with Mike, Pete, and Steve, GovsRadio.com. We are live here at the biggest and the baddest comedy club in all of Long Island, Governor's Comedy Club, in the heart of Levittown, and in the heart of where they take sand out of a giant shed and spread it throughout Nassau County. And it's fantastic to see tonight in the snowstorm. Thanks for joining us. We are live here with some very special guests for you tonight. But before we get to them, we have some sponsors. Steven, take it away with Rosie's Draft Solutions, please.
Yes, Rosie's Draft Solutions is a Long Island family-owned business that provides professional draft beer system services, line cleanings and maintenance, draft beer line system installs, event dispensing solutions, and more. They are passionate about craft beer and making sure that it has the same quality as when it left the brewery, and that's only done by making sure those draft lines are perfectly clean.
Clean it tight.
Rosie services bars, restaurants, halls, events, and all other beverage establishments, including home kegerator installs across Long Island and Westchester. You can reach them at rosiesdraftsolutions@gmail.com or call them at 631-219-2075, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Mention the Wort.
Yep.
Get I think you get bikini waxing.
Bikini now is
No. You get a discount.
Yeah, you get a discount. So go to rosiesdraftsolutions.com or follow the link in our link tree, Rosie's Draft Solutions. Give Nick a call, tell him the Wort sent you, and receive percentage off your service or your order of anything from Rosie's Draft Solutions. Thank you very much, Nick and Dad, for being a sponsor of the show. Small business, Long Island based, love them. Tonight we are also sponsored by Beer Maker. BEERMKR for your at-home automated tabletop brewing system. All grain, kits available. Fantastic little thing if you want to start up brewing instead of going out and getting the Mr. Beery kit from Bed Bath & Beyond or wherever they used to
or buying $5,000 worth of equipment.
Right. Well, I mean, is
you keep in your
middle
shed
ground
or
somewhere.
your garage.
All right, for $500 using the Wort code, you can get your own tabletop brewing system automated with an app all grain system that you can now monitor with your phone. Add fresh hops, cryo hops, do your adjuncting, everything all within the system. Go to BEERMKR and order yours today and type in promo code THEWORT for your percentage off your Beer Maker. Tonight we are also sponsored by Brewbag for your beer pong cornhole. Brewbag for your outdoor beautiful beer pong cornhole. That's right. You're playing cornhole. You're playing beer pong all at the same time.
I looked at mine in the shed today.
Yeah, so I
stared at it for today, a few. Yeah, baby. I said, not today, babes.
No, today's not that day. But maybe coming up soon. I heard 50 degrees coming up towards the end of the week, so maybe we bust it out for a little bit. Go to brewbag.com or, again, go to our link tree in our Instagram bio and go to our private special purchasing page for your brew bag. You can also get them professionally vinylly wrapped with your logo for businesses and breweries all across the state and or the country. Go to brewbag.com. And tonight we're also sponsored by Brewers Hardware. Brewers Hardware. Will, thanks very much, man, for sending this year's care package. We gave one of the gift certificates out to our guests tonight.
Hopefully they'll buy, maybe some...
lots of tri-clamps.
Tri-clamps.
So many tri-clamps. Jack's going to love the tri-clamp collection that he's going to amass from Brewers Hardware. Go to Brewers Hardware and get everything you need for your small batch, large capacity needs. Go to brewershardware.com or, again, follow the link in our link tree of the bio of our Instagram and get your brewing equipment today. And speaking of today, we are joined by the gentleman from Somerset in West Hempstead. And thank you, gentlemen, very much for through the storm, joining us for a fantastic time in the studio tonight and bringing a shit ton of beer is the words I would use for that. And we're going to have a great time. So thanks very much for
they've already
in.
touched my heart because immediately,
lager filled your glass.
bro, they immediately. How long, some breweries, we have to like kind of coax them into pouring.
Anytime you guys want to open a beer.
These guys were like.
Asses didn't hit the seats before there was beer in the cup.
Put the goddamn glass down.
I do appreciate that. For anyone listening in the future, we do appreciate beer in the cup immediately. Yeah. Even though we may not drink it immediately, it needs to be there because as the minute I want it, it also kind of breaks up we're trying to get the conversation moving, and then we have to stop the conversation for somebody to drink. It happens. So, Manny, Tom, and Jack, thanks a lot for joining us, man. You guys are thanks a lot for coming out. And this is an interesting story we were just talking about before the show. Obviously, everyone has the question for you, the Newsday article or the Village patch and all that other stuff. So I want to hear from your perspective without the, let's say, editorializing, exactly how this got started, because you are very, very new in the scene. You guys came out of nowhere, made a little bit of noise in the industry, especially when there wasn't as many breweries opening up. How did this get started? Where the hell did you guys come from? It was like left field to us. We're like, who the shit is this?
Yeah, for sure. So,
sorry, I get up that high. I usually don't
talk.
talk.
That was nice.
I know.
So first and foremost, thank you guys so much for
I'm excited to
having us.
have you on. That's why.
Yeah.
So again, just to introduce, my name's Manny.
Yeah.
I'm the head brewer. Next to me is Tom Sullivan.
Yeah.
He is our brewing apprentice, and then Jack over there, big guy, is our brewing assistant. So.
Yeah.
And social media guru.
And social media.
And drummer extraordinaire.
And drummer.
We'll say that.
We'll put that in there.
So everyone always, so my previous profession, still a profession, I'm a board certified internal medicine physician.
That's crazy. You want to look at my hernia? I need to get it fixed. I was saving that for the show, by the way.
So what's funny, you always ask me to fix it.
I know.
I can't do that.
Just pop that in there. Just give it a good hard donkey punch, and I'm good to go.
Just kick it.
I'll give you some of my medical stories later, but I have a pretty long medical history, and so I always like to mess around with doctors to see what they thought about it. So it'd be interesting to see it. But yeah, board certified medical doctor, physician.
I am, yes.
What? So this brings the question to a lot of people's ears. Is like, why? Why would you then start a business with brewing that in tradition is not the most lucrative place? It had to be from passion. You have the money. You can do whatever you want. I mean, to some point, right? I mean, you don't need to do this to make a living. You have a living. So what is it that's going to drive you? What is the thing that's going to push you to be a brewer in this industry?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was living on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, just like everyone else, started off on small batches. So started off in 5 gallons, bring right off of the stovetop. Got pretty good at brewing beer, I would say. I turned my second bedroom in Manhattan into a whole chemistry brew lab. So,
well, there's the background, right? You have the knowledge of the chemistry.
I mean, he could have went, meth lab, but he went brewing.
Keep Mr. Whited all day.
100% Mr. Whited it. So.
Oh, God.
What was really nice is living on the Upper East Side, big outdoor balcony. When I had my big outdoor balcony, I used to bring all my brewing equipment out there, and I would be brewing outside in Manhattan on a private balcony, right? So,
which is totally legal, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Just like you guys said, I mean, very Breaking Bad kind of style.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised that nobody called the cops and was like, hey, there's this kid who's cooking meth on the balcony.
Well, they knew it was beer. They could smell it from a couple of miles away, and they're like, we're going to see a brewery open up in town soon, so maybe in the next 2 or 3 blocks we'll have a nice new brewery. I wouldn't say anything. Yeah, I'd appreciate the smell, that's for sure.
So a lot of people, to tell someone that you're thoroughly enjoy organic chemistry... It's kind of crazy.
It's really not a line you use at the bar for the women. Yes. Like, hey, lady, I thoroughly enjoy organic chemistry. You got to say it like that, though, too. And so, like, take me home now.
There's no doubt about it. The first thing that I even tell Tom and Jack, who are, to my left over here, the number one rule of brewing good beer is that you have to brew bad beer first.
Yeah.
And so there were tons of batches of bad beer that I brewed before I ever got
on the balcony.
100%. There was. And I was doing it pretty, consistently. So I tried to brew a batch of beer every other weekend.
Okay.
And so I started about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
got pretty good at brewing beer. My brother moved into his new house in Garden City.
Okay.
When he did that, obviously, I commandeered his garage.
As he should.
Off the balcony and into the garage.
Hesitant to his wife, we totally outfitted a one-barrel system in there.
Really?
Swear to God. So we had, a couple of keezers that were in there. We had about 8 taps that were in there, all stainless steel, fitted with, a very large 3 compartment sink and everything.
Wow.
Water filtration system, all that kind of stuff. Insulated the hell out of it.
This is like home brewer's dream.
Yeah,
Like if
even
I
had-
could put something in my garage, some of those guys from LIBME have like
Yes.
really outfitted basements. They know the grind.
Fully automated systems,
I know,
too.
it's crazy. man.
We even had a video game in there. So
Yeah.
Well, see, that's...
Well, that's
then
what you
I'm
do with
in.
your downtime.
I'm in.
Yeah. So, it was kind of crazy. So there we were brewing beer in my brother's garage, really started getting into the fine tuning of the chemistry and everything. And like, I always believe with brewing beer, if you change 1 or 2 variables, then you can kind of get down to the nitty gritty and really try and figure out what changes beer and how it goes from being an okay beer to being a great beer. And then
Just really spending the time. It's really the grind of really
This
trial and
is
error to get it to where it needs to be.
100%. And that's why with Somerset Brewing, our motto is basically sound science, creativity unleashed, meaning that we go in depth in chemistry, trying to figure out how to basically modify our beer to get better every single time by changing just 1 or 2 variables.
Now, what was some of the downfalls, the pitfalls of those first beers? Was it open air of the city? Was it the city water? Did you account for those types of things?
So
Like what
believe it or not, the city water is actually wonderful.
Yeah.
So
aquifer upstate, right? Or not aquifer?
listen, you get a lot of soft
Reservoir,
water.
that's
Yeah,
what it's-
so
yeah.
you get a lot of soft water, which has exactly the calcium, the magnesium, every kind of other kind of cation, anion, and I'm not going to bore you guys to death.
No,
with,
bore us, because this is the
with-
kind of stuff that
with
I
chemistry
enjoy
over
and he
here.
knows about already. So I'm a nerd at heart. I love the chemistry. When we interviewed a few other people, I don't know if you ever met Ian from not North. What am I talking about?
Norfolk.
North Fork, yeah, sorry. I was going to go North Park, and I don't know why I was going to go there. That's totally not the right brewery. Same thing. He's Stony Brook educated scientist pretty much, and he went into some depth. And we were just like,
Microbiologist.
yeah, I was like, wow, that's bananas. But the stuff was really interesting. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so I'll give you guys a quick story really
Yeah,
quick.
all right.
So at Tom over here, when the brewery first opened, we just opened up about 7 or 8 months ago in West Hempstead. And Tom kept coming in basically every weekend annoying me, just pulling at my
Hey, Manny.
pulling at my pant leg, trying to just get his foot in the door. And to say the least, he got his foot in the door.
Clean the bathroom.
Legitimately told
But
me he would clean the bathroom.
But that's I like those. I love those stories
Yeah.
because my assistant brewer is now the head brewer for Peconic Brewing. Just because every time I went to a festival, he would show up and go, "Hey, want to try this beer? Hey, and what do you think of this?" And every time, and I'm like, "Man, this kid is persistent." But his beers were like actually good too. I'm like, "Yeah, you want to show up one day?" And he was like, everything went crazy for him. He was like, "Yes, I'll do whatever. You don't have to pay me." I'm like, "Let's start."
Let's
But
start with the beer
That's how you start out, man.
No
And-
doubt. So he was super persistent, definitely got the job. But, one of the first stories that I like to tell about Tom is, Tom's a smart kid. So he's an electrical engineer who has a degree in, robotics, right? Yeah.
Really?
Master's degree in robotics.
That's
So,
pretty cool. Well, that'll help with the electrician systems in the back.
No
Jeez.
doubt. He's definitely helped out with all the electrical components in the brewery.
And,
stuff
and
like
when the fermenters turn into Optimus Prime,
Yeah, we'll know who did it.
But the story that I always tell is that when he first started to assist me with all the brewing and stuff like that, he goes, "What are you doing with your water?" And I was like, "What? You've never actually changed the composition of your water to add minerals in it?" And he goes, "No, because if you have good water, you can make good beer. All it has to do is just taste good."
He was like, "Oh."
See, and I love hose water, so I really do. I look for that in the summer. It's delicious sometimes, and I'm like, ooh. But that I don't think would make all that great of a beer. The metallic taste, the tinniness of the staleness. But yeah, you're right. In the end, to us, the water has defined regional beer, right? I mean, you go in the city, that beer has, and no matter where you go, has like a undertone of that city water system. Come out here, it's a little different. go Jersey. We've been to Jersey a few times. It's a little different. The grain they're using, the adjunts they're using, everything else could be exactly the same, 2 different beers. So we always found that the water really does have a significant impact on the overall taste. Now, with the treating of it, that could help balance it out, clear up some, chemical imbalance. But yeah, I mean, that's what I've always kind of alluded to. If you have good water, you have good beer. It's not far off from, maybe not from brewery to brewery in the same region or same area, but definitely brewery to brewery in regional. And does Other Half brew in DC?
Yes.
So does anyone ever do like a taste calculation, or have they done that water?
Well,
I'm sure they've done that
these
water.
These guys have labs.
No, I know, but I'm saying to match what they've been doing in in Brooklyn, yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
It's freaking Other Half. I got it. I understand.
Well, here's the crazy part too. So Manny was saying, we have this soft water that's really conducive to making good beer. Mm-hmm. But then you go to Pennsylvania and you have this really hard water where they really have to treat, but still really good beer comes out of Pennsylvania. Yeah. So it's...
Well, that's what I'm saying. It requires just a little more, time and effort to dial in that water profile.
Yeah, for sure. And so even, what's nice over here is that when I went really from brewing big batches in my brother's garage to brewing in West Hempstead, it's pretty close. It's only like a 5-minute drive. So generally speaking, when we did all of our water calculations and everything else like that, it was very, very similar. Pretty much spot on. Maybe a little bit higher of a pH, a little bit more calcium, but generally speaking, very similar water profile. So,
Tom, what have you have been observing as the apprentice so far throughout the days? What have you seen now that kind of changed your mind on certain things you might have thought before getting the job at Somerset?
Needless to say, I measure the water.
Yeah.
I factor that in when I brew my beer now.
Every single time. You doing pH tests and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I did a water report.
Yeah.
You submit it to Wort Labs.
Okay.
And then you get a whole water report, gives you pH, magnesium, calcium, phosphorus, whatever.
And now then the counterbalance, if something's off a little bit, you know what needs to get in there and what needs to change to get to that
like gypsum, Epsom salt.
So if you see the
Seems
way
simple stuff like you get at the grocery store, but it makes sense.
Tom is always interesting because there is not a bad beer in Tom's book. He loves every beer,
that,
right? So when I first met him, one of the things that we were actually
can't use Tom as a gauge anymore. He's out. He's done.
I actually had to almost train his palate to start to detect, off flavors, acetaldehyde, all these other different types of flavors that you can taste in the beer and be like, hey, this is an off flavor. This is what we're looking for. This is how we can change it, right? Which is interesting because Jack over there actually has a great palate. So Jack is like our sommelier, to say the least. So.
Where'd you get your palate from, sir?
I don't even know, man.
Bush Light.
But you know what? It's actually
I knew it was coming.
Some people have that refined
They just have
palate.
it. Yeah.
Like when Pete's here, he's like, "Yeah, I don't taste anything. You guys are better than
Yeah.
better
And what
palate."
I'm saying, do you attribute it to just the natural talent of discovering that, or do you think it's more of something you've developed and trained? You thought through.
He was born with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have been, but I don't know. You could ask Manny, you could ask Tom whenever we drink beers and there's an off flavor. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
Or he's like, this tastes
like I could compare stuff to. Yeah, I don't even know. Like there was a beer that tasted like Bugles one day. This is a Bugle. Like they're like, what are you talking about? And
Later on, you can tell us what beer that was, so we don't drink it.
I got you.
I love Bugles, though. I love Bugles.
They're delicious.
Yeah, well, if you're eating them, not when you're drinking them.
Corn tortilla chips,
like
kind of
that.
baked and
Yeah,
fried.
listen, besides being the marketing guru down there, he's also our food guru. So he
Ah.
orders all the food, he gets all the food. Everything basically runs through Jack. So
Now what's your title at this point, Jack?
I don't know.
Everything.
He's Jack.
Do it all,
He's
pretty
the
much.
Jack of
Jack.
all
Yeah,
trades.
I am.
so we are definitely still in small brewery mode where everyone here, it's all hands on deck.
Okay. This guy's sharing responsibilities across the board.
Yeah, no doubt. So we're trying to brew about. We have a 3.5 barrel system where we're trying to brew. We can really pump it out to about 4 barrels. So we're making about 16 kegs a week at the brewery.
Okay. That's a good amount of beer.
It's a good amount of
for
beer.
your space, your size, and right now, can you double batch? Do you have the ability to really, what's your limit on really pumping?
So we can
trying to get stuff out, because I know in like the spring, summer, things come up, people are coming out. It's gonna be a lot. You got a nice outside spot, as we saw online. You're gonna have to provide enough beer. Are you gonna be able to support?
Yeah, 100%. So we have cold storage space where we've already been taking kegs.
Okay.
And traditional beers like the one that you're drinking over there, which is Memphis, which is a lager, where we've already been taking 8 to 10 kegs, and we've just been stacking it away.
Okay.
So we have about for the upcoming spring, we're hoping to stack about 100 kegs off site, and we can bring them when we need. So, but yeah, due to our outdoor
Yeah, you
space
got
and
enough
everything,
beer. I'm just gonna say you have enough beer.
yeah,
It's
we
a question answered.
yeah, we were we opened up 8 months ago. The reason why on a lot of our stuff it says established in 2021 is we got over our permits, everything was good and gravy, but still at that time COVID was still a deal, right?
No reason to push at that point.
No reason. It also helps that, again, I'm a board certified internal medicine physician who is grandfathered into acute COVID care medicine.
Yeah,
So
you were busy.
I was busy.
Very busy.
Yes.
And which I guess kind of all worked out. I mean, you kind of had the right timing for it. It opened when it opened on the right moment, and people are getting out there because, you didn't fade into the background immediately. That, like I said, it's still on people's minds, and people are still posting about it, and people are still saying things, and the word of mouth is getting around. So
yeah, definitely. Like I told you guys before, it's interesting because being a home brewer, the only thing that I really wanted to do was just provide a place for people in the. I've always said this. I'm 40 years old now, right? Whenever I would come back to Garden City, my brother still lives there, my parents still live there, my older sister lives there, and my sister lives in Queens. That whenever I would come back from Manhattan where I was living, there was never like a good place to kind of go grab some beers where you can bring the dog, bring the kids, and everyone kind of hang out and relax, right? If you guys know, Nassau County, right there in the center, eastern Queens, western Nassau County, you have to go all the way down to Barrier, you have to go all the way up to Garvey's Point, you got to go all the way out to Suffolk, you got to go to Queens, Brooklyn, and get good beer, right? There's like this dead zone that's sitting right there.
yeah.
Where it's like 10 miles of just a radius that there's just nothing, right? So between me and my brother and my brother-in-law who opened up Somerset, we were like, all right, what better time to do this than now? So kind of while the whole world was basically standing still for COVID, we were getting our hands a little dirty and building the brewery. So
Now, how'd you guys come across this space? You're saying like it's the right space, not much around. You pretty much kind of distance yourself from anyone else between, the South Shore and things like Barrier or Long Beach, the North Shore like Oyster Bay and anything like that. You have Lost Farmer in and around Malvern, right? So it's kind of like a dead zone, and nothing in that eastern Queens area either. I mean, you have to go a little further in there to start getting some brewery action. What was the draw to this area for the brewery?
yeah, for sure. So again, I grew up between New Hyde Park and Garden City,
Okay.
and so we were looking for a space for quite some time.
I mean, there's got to be 1 billion spaces out there.
You would
post-COVID that.
Be
Yeah.
surprised.
Well, I guess you were in the midst of COVID looking for it, right? So you're
Yeah,
trying
for
to-
sure. So I've always said this with a lot of breweries that I've ever visited, right? If you go to a brewery, if it's outdoors, you'll stay there forever, right? Beautiful day, picnic benches outside. You'll sit down. You'll have, not just the lager, not the IPA, but you'll run through a whole bunch of beers and you'll
yeah.
hang out, right?
And especially if they have food, Jack. Especially if they have food. He knows what he's doing.
But if you have an indoor space, it could be beautiful. You'll have a couple beers, a flight, whatever, and then you go home, right?
Yeah.
So, again, we saw the need for something where people between the ages of like 20, 21 to 40 with kids and dogs, that was like what we were trying to do.
That's your marketing spot, right? Your
100%.
demographic, yeah.
Our demographic in that
Pretty much
area.
my demographic. I have kids, I have a dog, and I'm in my 40s.
And I wanna drink some
And I
beers.
want to drink beer all the time.
But it's interesting, again, growing up.
And I have a profession that provides me money that I can afford to do that on the regular.
And,
right?
and,
That's what it is.
Jack over here is only 23 years old, and Tom is 30, and I'm 40. So we're crossing all boundaries over here in regards to ages. But whenever I would come back, I would always ask my brother and sister, like, where could we go to have a beer? And there was just no place to ever go But if you think about it, between New Hyde Park, Stewart Manor, Franklin Square, Garden City, you have all these places where you have young families, right? Everyone's in their 30s, everyone's in their 40s, everyone
Working
has
young
kids.
professionals.
100%.
Yeah.
And we knew that it was like an untapped market. And if you come down to Somerset on if it's a beautiful Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have a bunch of tables outside. We get different food trucks out there, and then it's just a nice little atmosphere.
Yeah,
So.
the outdoor space surprised me because initial posts kind of were about inside and what it looked like, and I guess you were very proud of what you constructed, a nice, beautiful indoor tap room. And then when I started seeing the posts of the outdoor area, I went, holy shit, in Western Nassau, having a nice, beautiful backyard with picnic tables and umbrellas and stuff like that. It looks phenomenal. You guys did a great job. So that was kind of what you're looking for. You wanted that indoor-outdoor, multi-season, kind of multi-space area.
100%. So we all know this, right? In the brewing industry, January, February, March is basically like your slow season, and then you build up to it. So our outdoor spot, if it's a beautiful day, bring the dog, bring the kids, have a couple of beers and eat off the food truck.
Yeah, 50 degrees is good for me. I can sit outside of that. I'm good with that.
Even what's funny is that, last weekend it touched 60.
Yeah.
And even at 60, we had, 50 people sitting
Yeah. You need the outdoor space. You really do. It's tough to live without. I mean, think about 27A. When they first started, small indoor space, not much room, and then all of a sudden they bought that land or at least,
That little
negotiated
spot,
that
yeah.
spot. That means a big difference. That's another, let's say, 20 to 30 asses in seats, and we know in the restaurant business, every seat has a certain value, right? So when you look at the bar, and it's like 11 grand a year a seat or something like that, and you look at, I'm making stuff up, but you look at the tables in the restaurant, and each table means something, and so for breweries, it means even that much more, especially since all your revenue is coming through your tap room. For someone who's not necessarily distributing or doing anything like that just yet to that capacity because you're so new, every seat matters.
Well, and you did hit on, and after thinking about it, after he said it, I mean, how many times have we been in breweries inside? Yeah, you stay for a little bit. And,
Oh, absolutely.
but
unless it's giant.
When you're outside,
You lose track of time.
you
There's no doubt
just
about it.
hanging out,
Listen,
and it's good.
In the
and-
heat of the summer, again, we only opened up about 8 months ago. But there would be times, we'd open up on a Sunday at 12 o'clock. I'd look up and people would still be there. It's 8 p.m. I'd see the same people that were sitting their asses down at 12.
the best feeling is
I was like, listen, buddy, go home, put your kids to
it's about
sleep,
the best one is when it's late at night and they're still hanging out, and you're like, "I'm sorry, we're closing. You're gonna have to go," but they want to stay. That's such a great feeling because one, they're enjoying your beer, enjoying the atmosphere, and they're going to be telling everybody else, "You got to come hang out."
Dude, I was there
It's
for
great.
like 10 hours.
Yeah,
It
you got to
was
come
such
and
a
hang
good
out.
time. Yeah, it really does make a sense
good.
with the word of mouth for sure. So you guys found this space. What were the kind of town experiences like? Like, what'd you have to go through to
So
get this thing finalized? Because what was there? What was prior to there being in the space?
So in our brew house area, it used to be a truck auto mechanic kind of place.
Oh, God.
And on the other space, believe it or not, it used to be an eBay seller. Where
You found some collectibles in the walls?
but yeah, so he just used to sell anything. And what's funny is, make a very long story short, my brother's really good friend, his wife was the guy who used to sell the stuff in there. So it's
so
like
they turned you on to that space, or
So
at least mentioned it. Right?
My brother actually just happened to be driving by. So if you guys are ever in West Hempstead, it's actually very tucked away, but it's off of a very busy road. So Cherry Valley is used as like a cut through kind of road for people to go north and south to get off of Hempstead Turnpike when it gets like crazy, right?
On the way to the Islander game. Yep. Pretty much is where they're trying to get the hell out of there somehow to get off that.
Yeah, for sure. But what's great about our little brewery is it's definitely tucked away, and we have a ton of parking that's back there, and we're also kind of hidden. So, off of the main street, we put some signs that are sitting out there. You can't really see us, but it's nice because when you find out where we are, then you know where we're at.
You're in the know.
Yes.
Yeah, I know where that's at. And was the cleanup much, from the auto shop? I mean, I would assume there would be some sort of like not say
Oil and grease.
Right, I was gonna say ground pollution. I was trying to think of a nicer way to say
Oh,
it.
it was an absolute disaster. So the interesting thing, and now I know this.
Did they have lifts there you had to remove?
no
Okay,
lifts.
all right, good. Because those things are tough to, especially the ones that are from the pressure on the hydraulics underneath.
Yep.
So
that's a tough one though.
I've never owned my own business before, right? I mean, what do I know about running a brewery? I'm a doctor, right? So,
And that's why it's so funny because it's just such a far cry from what anyone would do. But you have the, like we said, the passion for it.
but the interesting thing is that whenever you get into one of these spaces, right, you have to get into a lease because unless you have $5 million lying around, you have to buy the whole building,
Yeah.
right? So we're connected to about 2 or 3 other businesses. The guy right next door to us does like fire alarms and security kind of stuff, and then
Okay.
the 2 other businesses are in construction.
Okay.
So what's really nice about that is that past Friday 3 p.m. we are the only game in town back there, meaning
Right.
like the whole thing just opens up. So if you want the kids playing in the parking lot, the kids can go play, and
Not have to worry about it too much.
There
Construction
is-
vehicles moving in and out.
there
and
is
stuff like that.
there is no kind of traffic going through, and so. But going back to the commercial kind of real estate and everything is that when you get one of these places, unless you're, filthy rich, you can never buy one of these places, right?
Especially in Nassau County.
So here you have a clicking, basically like a ticking clock on 5 years, right? So you have to build out your whole space. You have to outfit it, right? So here I am, jackhammering through concrete to lay plumbing
Yep.
for the drainage system for the brew house. And that was probably the craziest thing that I've done for the brewery. I mean, jackhammering through 2 feet of concrete to, lay some pipe. So
Now, was there, like I said, a pushback in getting everything approved from the town? How is that? Is it west? It's town of Hempstead, I would assume, right? So, were they at all, like hard to get around?
So
or?
the town of Hempstead, to get a hold of anyone during COVID,
Oh God,
all right,
that's true. I didn't think about it that way either.
it was the most impossible thing on the planet.
Huh.
Yeah,
You go to their houses, ring doorbells, like, "Hey,
it was.
hi Maria."
I was
accounting.
showing up. It's interesting, right? Because during that time, nothing was open. So you go to the buildings department, you knock on the door, you can't get in.
Yeah.
You call, nobody's answering the phone because nobody's inside the building. You email them, and
No one's
there's-
answering those.
and nobody's answering, right? So, for lack of a better term, really through, we opened, we broke ground in January of 2020 with the hope of opening up in the summer of 2021. Obviously, due to COVID,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole thing was nixed, right?
Yeah.
It was pushed back a good year. So
Did they extend the lease for you at that point?
So we asked them to, and they
Yeah.
did.
Okay,
yeah.
that was good of them.
It was good, but you still had to pay the lease.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you still owe it for it, but at least you don't have to worry
Yes.
about that time expiring. And because you lost so much time, now you're only into like 3 years of the business before you actually can do anything with it.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so that's also the interesting thing is after outfitting an eBay store and a auto mechanic into a brewery, we put in a brand new bathroom, we put in a brand new front door, we put in all this kind of new stuff, we laid all new tile and stuff like that. And after 5 years, like you're not walking away with that,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
Like
I'm not just gonna leave it all there. I'm pulling that tile. It's coming with me. Let's go.
100%. So what happens at 5 years? We throw a massive rager in there, and
Yeah.
Jack and Tom start breaking everything, and
That,
so
that toilet's coming to my house. Tom, you're gonna grab the tub. You're gonna grab the drop sinks. Let's go. Yeah, it's that's something people don't consider. Like you get into a lease and you do all this work to it, and then you leave it behind.
100%.
And
Like
then who's-
and you have to make it look nice, right? Like
Right.
We're not gonna like put in a shoddy bathroom just to like,
Yeah.
hey, like
It shouldn't look like what's the bathroom in New York City? It's just oh god, I'm trying to think of that bar. Blind Tiger. The bathroom in Blind Tiger is just
No, the one that was worse was they're since closed. What the hell was it?
Proletariat.
No,
Or the other one,
they're
the,
Philly night. No, it's Jimmy's 43.
Oh,
Long gone.
well,
And my wife was terrified of the bathroom. Terrified of it.
yeah, but probably because they knew really getting out of there and like just trashing
so-
it
it
or
was
whatever.
so
But
bad.
that's people don't really consider. Okay, I'm going to do all this work and I'm going to leave all that pipe behind. I paid for all that. It's in the floor. And the next business that comes in may not even use it. So it's not even like an added value to the
totally
next
agree with
person
you.
comes in.
And that's why
That's
Jack is gonna go home with a brand new bathroom, after 5 years. So. But
All that
I
grout's
broke
coming out.
I broke out the matriarch. So this is our Buffalo Trace
We're going to get into this. We're going to talk a little bit about
barrel aged coffee chocolate stout.
Jesus Christ. What's the ABV on that?
It's about 7.8%.
Okay, all right, not too bad. It's not going to make me swerve into the snowbanks that happened on the way home. Ah, nice. So let's talk about the opening weekend. Remember the date? What happened on that weekend? Did you go through all the beer you had built up? It's one of those things that most breweries go through, right? Grand opening, grand closing kind of deal.
No doubt. So we opened up the very last day of June.
Okay.
So when we opened
Hot
up,
season, but
100%.
people are out there ready to go. School ending. People are like summertime starting. Not a bad time. Pretty good
I agree with you. So
target.
me growing up in Garden City and New Park, I kind of knew that the majority of people go away during that time.
Okay.
Right? So there's not a lot of people that are around. So when we opened up, I knew that if we did it in the dead heat of summer, we would have some time to work out the kinks, right?
Yeah, giving yourself like a soft opening kind of feel.
100%. So, it was funny because even back then, if we had 50 people in the brewery, it felt like it was 500, right? Yeah.
Because everything is new. And having that many people in there, you're like, wow, this many people showed up.
Totally. And at that point, I was doing everything. So I was brewing all the beer. I was kegging all the beer. 16, 17-hour days every day.
Jesus Christ.
I was bartending.
No wonder you guys came through. Jesus.
So, 6 weeks after, Tom and Jack kind of came around and definitely...
You finally got a good night's sleep at that point. You're like, oh.
So just like everything, again, what do I know about opening up a brewery or running a brewery, right?
Right.
So I needed to kind of see everything that kind of was coming in, everything that was going out, and then just to get a feel for who we needed, what exactly we needed.
Yeah, like a zoomed out snapshot of just kind of like the overall, how's it going in this sample set of a week, a month, a year, or not a year, but you know what I'm saying? Like as you look further, what are the needs? How can we improve?
Exactly. And one of our most beautiful signs was from June, and moving forward every single month, we were just getting busier and busier and busier and busier all the way up, even into December.
Nah, they realize the beer doesn't suck, so that definitely helps. Like I said, you brew it and they will come. Good liquid will produce good drinkers, that's for sure. So, Tom, when did you come on? At what point did you kind of hit the ground running?
When did he finally say, all right, yes.
Once I heard about the brewery in West Hempstead, as Manny said earlier, it's just there's been a vacuum of breweries in Nassau County for a long time. Once I heard there was a brewery opening up, I was like, I gotta go.
Finally.
So I went with my dad a couple of times.
Dad drinks craft beer?
Oh yeah, I got into it from my home brewery.
Yeah.
He used to drink Bud Light, Coors Light exclusively, as do a lot of my family members. And then
now they're all asking for what's in your fridge. Looking through the beer fridge.
What's new? What are you guys brewing new over there?
So I came in with my dad a bunch of times, and then found out Manny started as a home brewer. Was talking to Manny about home brewing. Told him, I was like obsessively brewing 5-gallon batches. Like it got to a point where it was every week I was just brewing 5-gallon batches. Yeah. So it was a lot of. I was just constantly brewing, and I was like, I gotta get.
You have a lot of friends, don't you?
Yeah.
Because all home brewers that brew a lot have lots of friends.
I just give beer away.
Yeah, they'll all be like, what did you brew this time? What'd you get? You have many, many friends.
I don't know about that. There's other reasons for that. But I was just obsessed with it. I wanted to get a part-time job. Kept nagging Manny. And I think it was, July? End of July? I think I finally started, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I told him, we definitely needed to see kind of all of our input, our output, all the expenses, all that kind of stuff. And I told him, like, he was legitimately nagging me sometimes, 2-3 times a day where I was like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like go home, right? And so, I finally caved, so.
Persistence does help, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so the same thing with Jack, too, is, before Jack even joined the brewery, I sat down with Jack and his brother a couple times outside on our picnic tables and just had beers, right? So we were just talking. And then Jack, it was actually kind of funny the way that Jack came along because, we put out a post on Instagram being like, hey, guys, I'm fucking drowning. I'm not getting any sleep. I need help, right? And so Jack at the time, like I knew Jack's first name. I didn't know Jack's last name. So Jack Morello emails Somerset and he's like, hey, here's my resume. I was hoping to like, get a position over there. And then as soon as Jack like walked in the door, I was like, Jack, you should have just told me it was you. I would have just given you, the position on the spot.
He wanted to make it formal. He wanted to make it a formal input. Jack Morello sounds like a drummer, by the way.
Yeah, well,
even have the name.
Not related to Tom Morello.
Tom Morello,
not
yeah.
related, but. So Jack, you, what's your background? What were you doing? Were you doing electrical engineering prior to this as well?
No, so
the hell did you come from, Jack?
I actually grew up in West Hempstead, same as Tom. But
Okay.
At the time, I was working at a plant nursery. I hated it, man. I really just wanted to get out, and I found out Somerset, and I came by, as Manny was saying, with my brother 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
And then once I saw the post, I came by, emailed, whatever.
Your brother really into craft beer?
He is, yeah. He actually put me onto it.
Older or younger?
Older.
Okay.
He's 30 now. But,
There you go. So yeah, he was definitely at the kind of peak of craft beer and
For sure.
really came up as a craft beer drinker. That's cool.
Yeah. So
Turned his little brother onto it, and look when he comes.
Yeah,
He
now I'm a
comes.
brewer.
Now
I
I'm a
mean-
brewer. So you guys, you and your brother, did you guys brew beer together? Did you guys do stuff?
No. So
No?
neither of us have ever brewed beer
Okay.
in our lives. I actually didn't start until I started working at Somerset.
Okay.
Manny got injured, and he was like, hey, man, you want to brew?
What the hell did you do?
Rule numero uno about brewing beer: stop playing sports when you hit 40.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I still play it.
but I
Probably
was,
what amounts to my hernia too. So go ahead.
I was playing softball.
Yeah.
Bottom of the 7th inning, made an amazing catch, and I tore my ulnar collateral ligament in my thumb. So
Catching hand.
Catching
So
a ball.
sliding and
I
pulling.
actually went and dove for a ball, and I landed directly on my thumb.
There you go.
Back, so.
So no more pulling up those grain bags up to the brew deck. That's for sure.
You know what was
God.
actually it was a blessing in disguise, and the reason why I say that is because it was good, because before that I was actually teaching Jack how to brew beer, and Tom already knows the processes and everything. And so when this happened, it was like, all right, boys, I can't even put on gloves. I had this massive cast on my hand, and here we had a thriving business, and we needed to produce 20 kegs a week, or nobody was drinking beer.
Yeah. It had to sustain. So did you guys pretty much just take over for all the brewing processes? You guys, you have your recipe set. We'll kind of talk a little bit about that after the break. But for the most part, you're just following, or are they bringing their own recipes? Have you guys been able to introduce new stuff to the whole plan or the schedule?
So not yet.
Okay.
It's on the docket.
Yeah, it's on the schedule.
He's got a book
It's
full of
coming,
them. He's
man.
waiting.
I want to do a cream ale eventually.
Hey,
Nice.
we like cream ales. Delicious.
Just brew them.
Yeah, I
I
know.
like all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah.
And like at Somerset, we brew really like fundamental beer.
Yeah.
So I think that like little 30-gallon batch versus the 120-gallon batch, it'd be nice to have like little experimental stuff.
Right.
Time is a limited quantity for me.
Oh, and
Extremely
of course
limited.
brew space too. And
Yeah.
scheduling and
Sure.
How many taps
ingredients.
do you guys have at Somerset?
We have 16. So
Okay.
But
You filled them all out?
Not enough.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. So we have 16, but then we also have a couple of other taps that we put on the back just because we just needed more. So we try and at least carry 12 different beers and 4 ciders. So,
Okay.
Oh, okay. Are you producing the ciders?
No, so
Okay.
my brother works at a horse farm, which is in upstate, and so we get our ciders from Penning Cidery, which is around Poughkeepsie.
Interesting.
But yeah, so my
So
brother.
your brother had a little bit of background too, then getting into this.
Yeah, so my brother has pretty much always been my brewing assistant. I mean, it's in his garage, right?
Right.
So all he
Yeah.
has to do is.
It's
and-
funny that he turned to cider though after you guys are brewing in the garage with a professional system. He's like, I'm going to do cider. And you're like, oh, okay.
Gonna get some cider from
I'm gonna get some-
Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
But-
It's weird that he didn't do mead as well. I mean, it's
But
one of those things
the
like, huh.
the interesting thing about Pennings though is that they don't sell it on Long Island, so it's like a little niche that we have over
Oh, cool.
there where it's different. It's actually very, very good cider. Too,
That's not
so-
because of restrictions. That's just because they don't come down here and distribute or
100%,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just not like something they would even consider.
Yeah.
They do well up there in that area.
I mean, just from their Instagram posts and everything else. I
Just
mean,
fantastic
they look
open
at
land
their-
and big big plots of people hanging and
I
drinking.
mean, it's nice to look at a place and you see it. It's like, I don't know, 20,000 square feet, and you're like, oh my god, it looks like a lodge, right? It looks like a Poconos lodge.
yeah. You get the barn, you get the apple orchards in the
I was
back.
going to say,
Beautiful.
are they, do they have apple orchards or are they getting the apples?
I've
sourcing
never been there.
Okay.
All I know is that
Because in my head, I'm like, there's all these apple orchards
Yeah, you're
out
just
there. and
looking
you're
out.
just picking them.
It's like Myers Creek, just looking out onto
bro.
the freaking open land, going to Angry Orchard. There's like 5 different areas around that lodge where you can go out and it's just orchards.
Yeah.
But it's it's a strange change of events that he went from craft beer to no, we're gonna do cider. That's very. Have you guys tried doing barrel aging and bringing it back and forth? Well, I know we're gonna get into that, but I've not heard of too much apple or cider based aging, but it could be something interesting to bring some sweetness into, some of the beers. No,
so there is no doubt.
He's like
the one thing about Somerset, okay, the only place that we can expand is up.
So the barrel aging program is going to be limited.
Everything.
Yeah, legitimately, between me, Tom, and Jack over here, we need to move 3 things to move 1 thing.
Oh God!
And
they're both
listen, it's a blessing in disguise
we move that
to be as busy as it's been, because the one thing that I would love to do, and I was talking to them about it, if we ever get the space, is to do some barrel aging in some wine barrels, right?
Yeah. Sure. Oh, okay, yeah.
So I knew my own opinion is the stout, I think, is the best beer that I brew. So I use actually A&S bagels in our stouts.
Really? Oh, nice.
And I've been doing that for quite some time. So, being a teenage kid, getting drunk, and then going to A&S and eating bagels all night was always
brings you back.
Yes, for sure.
That's funny. So you guys, like I said, you've opened up. You have your staff in place. You've experienced now the rush of the summer into the fall. How are you preparing now, coming up for the next few months as the season changes and it's getting warmer? Obviously, you said you're stacking barrels and you're making sure that you're prepared. What else is changing about, let's say, the tap list, or maybe maxing out equipment and stuff like scheduling and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a traditionalist at heart, right? Like, I love lagers, kolsch's, pilsners, fest beers, whatever. I have done the whole IPA thing and I've reverted all the way back, right?
Yeah.
So we have our first lager, which is coming out this upcoming weekend. It is called No Way Rosé. It's an ode actually to my older sister. Her name is Michelle. Mm-hmm. And as right now, man, it's pretty good, right, Tom?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Yep. It's similar to one of the Kolsch's we have.
Okay.
The Harmon, True didn't bring.
That's okay. This sounds delicious, by the way.
Yeah, so it's like
I really want to hear about this.
A hoppier Kolsch.
Okay.
So this is like, it's
it's more
similar to
subdued,
that.
kind of.
The lager, it's like the lager version.
Focus more on the lager than the actual
Just
the hop
cleaner.
profile.
I think it's a little drier.
I did notice on your Instagram, though. Well, actually, on your website. So I was just scrolling through some of the beers, and for several of the beers, you call them Long Island IPAs.
Yeah, for sure.
What's behind that?
So, all right. So I'm going to be a total traditionalist right now.
Man.
I'm not that big of a New England IPA kind of fan, right?
Okay.
So the microbiology and the chemistry background in me, it like drives me crazy when I see under attenuated beer like New England IPAs, because as you get older, you can't break down the complex carbohydrates as well as you once used to when you were a kid, right? I'm sure that you guys feel it, right? Like, I could drink one IPA like that and be perfectly fine. But if I drink like 2 or 3 of them, I just get bloated. I just feel terrible.
Right? I know. I'll give you this. So I like Dogfish 60 Minute. A little clearer of that, like an American IPA kind of feel. I can drink a 6-pack and not feel a thing. Not alcohol-wise, but like, health-wise. I don't feel terrible after that. I will, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But like 2 double IPAs from Root and Branch, and I do. I feel like roll me over and shoot me.
Totally agree with you.
Not only because they're probably like 7 to 8%, and that feels good as well. But like, yeah, it is. It's more filling. In a way,
100%.
The reaction to your brain and that is like, I'm full. So that's why I do go for like the let's say a sports day of football or something like that, I'm going to the more traditional, cleaner, but hoppy flavor beer than the bigger stuff. I'll maybe have one at the end of that trail, right? That was the big thing.
I totally agree with you. So people, what is a Long Island IPA? I mean, I just coined the term, right? Like who made up the term New England IPA?
Right. Somebody, somewhere.
But when it
It
comes
was
to
actually Frank DeSantis.
when it comes
I
to
just made that up, by the
Ron
way.
DeSantis? Oh, God.
There is a guy out there, and it's
And I'm sure there is. There's
It's-
a bartender, and he
No.
just said flipping to somebody.
Well, here it is.
It's
It's
a New England IPA.
so we all think a lot of people think Alchemist was like kind of the first one,
But were
there
they?
was a brewer out there somewhere
For sure.
that had a beer that didn't clear out from whatever happened, something stalled, whatever. He's like, I got to get this beer out, and it was, I don't care, it's hazy, and to get away with it, he just said, hey, this is our hazy IPA. So nobody would ask him a question.
Right.
And never probably got credit for it.
yeah, no, I totally agree.
And they never about it. They're
No.
like, oh, okay, yeah, hazy IPA sounds good.
But the I've never liked the outrageously haziness when you get that fruity kind of backbone. I'd rather an IPA, just like Mike was saying, to be like clean, easy, and kind of mellow, right? So I've always even taught Tom and Jack this, is that I feel like a more well-balanced beer in all assets of the beer is better off than just something like that. And also, growing up in Nassau County, we're very brewery naive, right? Meaning, again, my parents grew up there, and in 80 years from my lifetime and my parents' lifetime, we've never had a brewery that was close to there, right? So
Yeah.
generally speaking, a lot of the crowd that we get, again, is brewery naive, so they want like traditional beers. So it was very interesting when we first opened up that our traditional beers, from our Pilsners, our Kolsch's, our Lagers, our Oktoberfest, our Stouts, were selling almost 1-to-1 with our IPAs, which is unheard of in the brewery world.
Well, again, like you said, the
But
area, the locals, the people.
100%. So I knew that going in.
Okay. Well, that's a good, analysis by you, knowing that craft beer was not a huge thing in your region, in your area, and that the way to draw people into that business was traditional styles.
And especially since right now, since you've only been open 8 months, you guys are really hyper local. Like, your fan base is within a so many mile radius, because
10, 20 square
now
miles.
there is a brewery in that so many mile radius.
Or select number of
To-
people
yeah.
in Maryland.
Totally agree with you. Yeah.
What do you got, people
Brought
traveling?
A bunch of beer to
Oh,
Maryland.
yeah. just hand dropped.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what is this?
Well, you got to come to Long Island.
And I agree with that. In some cases, for places like my town, Lindenhurst, or other places like Patchogue for a while, and then Bayshore, right? You have these groups.
Riverhead new.
Riverhead. Oh my God, Riverhead. So you have these concentrated areas where you almost have to now be different than everybody else. You can't be the IPA heavy people because everyone has an IPA, or you can't be only lager based because someone's gonna have a lager, or you can diversify a little more. I think that's what they're all doing now to kind of stay relevant within that area. You don't even have to worry about that quote unquote competition. Not that they feel like it is, but you have two ends of the spectrum. You have an area that doesn't have anyone else to come to, so they're coming for you. Or you have an area that people are coming to for a day and they're jumping around. I think because you're away from enough away from the rest of the group that you actually feel like they're coming and they're going to stay for a while. They're not going to come for a beer, hit and miss, or hit and go. And
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
hit it and quit it is what I was trying to say.
As we know, right? Right now, I mean, a lot of beer drinkers are hopheads, right? So
Yeah.
they love their New England IPAs, love the juiciness, love the fruitiness, love all that kind of stuff. And so there's great New England IPAs on Long Island right now, right? You have exactly what you said. You have Root and Branch. You have Noble Savage. You have Barrier. You have Finback,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, God.
And even now, one of the brewers at Finback, who's really good friend to the brewery, Bert. We went there and. He's producing great stuff. Frank from Noble Savage is producing like phenomenal stuff.
Shout out Frankie.
Frankie boy.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where are we gonna jump in this market and just compete with like some of these dudes who have been doing it for the longest time and who do it really well, or we can just hit our local area with traditional beer, right? And guess what? That's like the beer that I drink, right? So Tom always laughs at me because Tom loves to brew all this crazy crap, right?
Yeah.
Like even the last couple beers that he was brewing, I was like, I don't even know what the hell kind of beer that is.
Braggot.
What style is that?
Braggot, yeah.
He brewed a Braggot, he brewed a Rush beer, he brewed a
We don't talk about that.
You know what?
There's a story there.
Bro, that could go one way or another. It could go really good, or it could go down the dark alley. Caramel yum yum.
Oh, God.
All right, that's all I'm gonna say. Just that, I don't know.
Coming to Somerset soon.
Yeah, I don't know. Manny has that look.
The Yum Yum series.
The yum yum series.
Yes.
Oh,
Season 4,
man.
episode 6, Yum Yum strikes again.
And so, you have Barrier who has money, which is like, for me, quintessential Long Island beer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're now international, right?
Yeah.
They sell their stuff.
Thanks to Bobby, just traveling, hop skipping all over the Europe and selling Barrier
That
everywhere.
savage he
And
is.
all he's doing is like racking up Instagram points for the number of places he's been
He always
to.
looks happy though.
And all the foreigners that, it sounds like a bad word, but all the people that he's met over and the friends that he's made and the connections and the networking. I mean, he is a very personable guy. I mean, besides that, God, I mean, that's what it takes that personality of someone like Bobby to get over and extend the brand to Europe, who has no clue where Oceanside, Long Island
Totally
is.
agree with you.
But the best part about it is it's because they
But
make
it's
good
the beer.
beer.
It's the beer that
they make good
stands up.
beer.
And
Yeah.
that's what it,
beer is very good. So,
Yeah.
Barrier Money put Long Island beer on the map. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's like one of the quintessential
Yeah.
beers
Money.
that ever.
I don't even like it much anymore because there's been so many other beers. And I don't mean to hit on Barrier. I loved it. But like some of their other beers, Ish Cray, like I said, that's one of my favorite from their collab with Sand City. But what was the Cryo Hop one that was the surfboard?
Lupo Max.
Yes. Yeah, that was delicious. And they kept coming out with stuff over and over again, even after Money. I'm like, I like this better now. And so far away from Money now is where I'm at. I liked it when it was out, and it was
Money's
great.
one of those ones, if you see it somewhere,
Right.
and there's
You know it.
there's Stellar, Goose
Blue
Island
Moon.
IPA, and you're gonna get the money.
I get Sophie.
You know
if
you're
it was
getting the
Goose
money.
Island Sophie, I get it. But
Oh well,
I like Sophie.
come on.
It's delicious. But that's the thing. Like, Barrier has that name recognition and the beer to support it. And I guess, as you're getting through your first few months, you're starting to develop that sense of your own kind of brand and what it's going to bring. And obviously it starts with, what your local people are coming in and asking for. You have a good support in the local community? You have, people asking for certain things that maybe you don't brew that you've kind of taken into consideration as you go along?
Yeah. So everyone that always comes always wants a sour. It's the one thing.
really?
Where,
God damn you
yeah.
people.
We've had.
I mean, I love sours, but
We know that.
it's a weird one for people who are like, I want a sour. I'm like, what?
It's actually
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very.
I do like them.
It's very interesting because from a doctor's perspective, okay, pediococcus is a really bad infection that you don't
There you
really
go.
want, but here we go, brewing beer with it, and everyone's drinking it.
Yeah.
We're like, what are we doing,
Ugh.
right? So
Well, you can't. Tom's like, yep, I love it.
Tom's like, I'm slathering that all over the place.
Coat the liner of
Oh
the tank.
man, give me a little pediococcus, lactobacillus, and all them beautiful ones.
Oh my God.
I
I want to hear a lot about
Saccharomyces.
these beers. We got to hear about them, but we have. We're going to just take a quick pause on Instagram, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to shout out a couple things because wow, there was a lot of people. Brian McAvoy from Jones Beach
Brian.
saying what's up, and it says Manny and Doctor/Carpenter. I want to know what that's all about.
Oh shit.
And holy smokes, I can't even. Okay, hold on. So this is why. Yeah, I should.
yeah, so Brian, I met Brian when we first opened up. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Always came by the brewery. Definitely supported us when we first showed up, and he's been super helpful. So
Cool.
Jay Clancy is saying what's up. Emily Nelson, Sheila from Long Island, and now
Shields.
from Taproom. Is that where she's
Taproom.
at?
Taproom,
out in Patchogue.
Yep.
That beer dad Robbie, dank beer reviews from over at Superstar Beverage. Rizzo, you deserve Black Horizon. Wow, this is, I'm not gonna keep up, guys. On Instagram, hop over to Facebook and YouTube. The live video is up and going on right now. So go to Governor's Comedy Club podcast on YouTube and Facebook. All right, because I'm going to shut this down so I can actually go to our next segment. Steve, you want to just kind of preface this while I do this really quick? So let them know what they're about to do.
So, we're going to do 3 questions. I'm going to ask each one of you 3 separate questions. Answer it as honestly as possible. It's nothing, like, when you lost your virginity or anything like that. It's all beer related. It's all good stuff.
We have a little musical interlude. That's what Steve is stalling for. So here it is with Steve's 3 questions.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
Hey, you cool hep cats. Tonight, we bring you a very special presentation. 3 questions with our very own Steve Pominski. Yeah. Steve's questions. 3 questions from Steve. 3 questions. Steve's questions. Go.
There it is.
I had to do it.
You had to.
I had
It's,
to,
it's,
had
it's a
to.
tradition now.
Yes. All right. Well, Manny, we're going to start with you
Let's fire
since
away.
you're the
Let's
man.
go.
So we're going
Fire
to do
away.
same question, one at a time. So, what was that beer, that craft beer that you had that turned you on to craft beer? What was that one beer you went, I got to find out more about this?
So, again, being a very simple-minded person and loving traditional beer, it was Blue Point Toasted Lager.
Hey, there you go.
Nice.
We haven't heard that all that often, but
No.
it has been.
Yeah.
It has come up before. But sure, if you're from Long Island and you know the area and you've had those traditional beers,
That was a great beer when it
great.
came
It's
out.
Pete's. That
It
would
still
be
is a good
that's
beer.
Pete's. Pretty much.
So the beer that
His
you
first
tasted
answer.
before, which was Memphis, is actually mimicked off of Blue Point Toasted Lager.
all right.
I didn't think I tasted Memphis. You gave me the delicious IPA.
No, I
but-
had that first.
We have a little bit of
Oh yes,
Memphis
then
over
I'm gonna
here,
have
so-
that after this delicious stout.
Tom.
I can't answer it
No,
Just-
you're going to.
with
No.
one beer.
Oh,
That's fine.
'Cause
That's
I
fine.
like too many things. It's pretty much my standard answer, but I was in Binghamton for school.
Ooh.
And I went to Binghamton Brewery quite often.
Okay.
All right.
And Purple Rain was a beer that I really, really
Purple
loved. It was made with grape. It was a sour. And
Oh,
it was-
okay. Of
talking
course.
about pina coladas.
Binghamton Brewery. Have I been there? Let me think about that. I definitely. So we actually got the word that we were going to be having Beer Tree Factory on the show coming up in
yeah,
April.
Beer Tree, I've been there. Yeah.
Fucking Beer Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Good
God,
stuff.
great stuff. I've been to the north.
That upstate New York area.
That whole
ton
line
of
right
breweries,
there.
yeah. So
North
it's like-
Brewery. What's the other one? There's 3 factories. There's
Oh, North.
the farm.
Yeah, that was an Endicott, yes.
Endicott,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
That's where the North is, right in town.
Yes.
The Endicott's not as nice of a town as I thought it was, but the brewery's nice.
I
The
lived
beer's
there
very
for
good.
a little while, though. It's not.
Oh yeah, no, it's, well, I just turned myself off.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to drink this, so I was trying to mute myself as I drank this. But yeah, that whole area along that line, and I like the area of Binghamton.
lot of
it's,
really good
it's nice.
breweries
Yeah,
over there.
Beer Tree Factory, fantastic. We had the Schwartz beer at the last show. It was phenomenal. So yeah, good stuff. All right.
Was there another one in there that you?
All craft
Okay.
beers
All
got
right.
me involved.
Yeah,
with
it's
craft
pretty
All right,
much
so you know what? We're just gonna go
every-
right past Tom. And,
Yeah.
because it's
You remember when I
Well,
told you
anything
about
from
Tom before?
Binghamton.
Anything that is cold and is just beer related. Tom was right.
the
Even
Tom
if
gauge.
It's not
Yeah.
cold. I mean,
All right, Jack, give me an answer, bro.
All right, barrier swimming in it.
Really?
It's a money variant, I think. It
That's
really
an
just
that's an old
blew
one
my
though, isn't
mind.
it?
Yeah. So, for like 3 years straight, the only craft beer I was drinking was from Barrier, and then I kind of expanded my horizons and started working at Somerset, going to Finback, and I don't know, everywhere else. But swimming in it really just did it for me.
Do you enjoy Ish Cray? Do you remember that collab with Sand City? That's one of my favorites. I love that one. That one.
I'm not gonna lie, it's not one of my. I did enjoy it. I was big on the Deadly Combos when they were doing those. I don't know if they still are.
Which one is
but-
the Bayside band collab? Was that Red Button? That was like the
No.
Amber,
Was it?
or
No,
was
I
that
don't think it
the
was.
dark beer? I don't remember. That one was very good too. When they were doing those are they 300s, 250 milliliter? What are they? The bottle.
The Bombers, yeah.
The Bombers. There's some good beers in there on those Bombers.
Morticia.
Oh God, fucking Barrier. They get me. They get me.
Question number 2. Right now, Manny, what is your favorite style?
I love lagers.
Lager.
Yeah, lagers and fest beers. So I love things with a little bit of maltiness to it. Just kind of like Blue Point Toasted Lager.
Alright.
The greatest thing about it, just like we were saying before, is
I see where you're going with that.
I could drink, a bunch of them.
Right.
This one that we have, 4.6, 4.7.
So that one's about 5.2.
Okay.
So yeah, the beer that you're drinking right now is called Memphis. It's
Memphis,
actually
yeah.
named after my first dog. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
a Rottweiler. But it's an easygoing drinking beer.
Yeah, for sure. It's his, like I said, I want to break this down, so I don't want to give it too much information just yet, but that, you're right, that kind of feels a little Blue Pointy, but different, for sure. There's not that Blue Point kind of hook in there.
For
that
sure.
You totally
So
get.
over the summer, I got a great compliment where one of the old, or one of the first owners of Blue Point before they actually sold it, they, he came to Somerset and we were talking.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that he was the Blue Point brewer.
Oh.
And
Head brewer or old owner? Or what would
old owner. So he showed up.
See the Mark or
and-
Pete?
Yeah, I don't remember.
We interviewed
I mean,
Mark, right?
Well, Pete really has like distanced himself from Blue Point.
That's 100% him then.
Yeah, and he actually plays in the band. He plays harmonica.
100%, and he was
And he's
playing
the
the.
This dude, man,
So
he is so relaxed.
This guy shows up in Birkenstocks.
Yeah, that's Pete.
Corduroy.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Yeah,
Pete Cotter.
cut off jeans and a tie dye shirt, and he's like, "Hey, bro, your beer is great." And then I was like, "Okay." And then
Yeah.
so my uncle, who is a musician, called him over to play in his band during the day when we had live music outside, and he was like, "This is the one of the co-founders of Blue Point," and I told him like this beer was like mimicked after one of your beers, so it was very cool to sit down and talk to him about it.
He's a great person.
He probably took that as a full compliment. He's like, yep, that's where it was.
And you know what? And he was probably just as proud of you trying to do that and making a great beer.
What's even funnier is because I remember that was just in this past summer, and I got super excited because we had a fantasy football draft, I haven't seen Blue Point Toasted Lager in a minute, and someone brought a case of it to our draft.
Oh,
And so I cracked it open, I drank it, and I was like, oh my God, this beer is terrible.
there is someone on the phone, Manny. This is the Wort, Mike, Pete, and Steve, GubsRadio.com. Who do we got on the phone?
Hello, we got the ghost today.
Is this, yeah. All right, bye-bye. So, you guys,
This is the same guy to call.
this is the same guy I call. I'll let him go.
And he's like, you know who this is? We're like, no, just stop.
He's off.
Watch. It's like
It just says wireless caller. It doesn't give me a caller ID on it, so somene's
watch-
blocking the
wa-
caller
Watch
ID,
it's
too.
Nicky Nooks. Or
No, it's
something.
not Nick. Nick doesn't have time for that shit, that's for sure. It's the same guy, though.
All right. Tom, I'm probably just going to go past you because you're just going to say beer. What style? Beer.
Beer.
No,
Beer
I
style.
actually agree with Manny.
Oh,
Lagers.
Lager's nice.
A clean, crisp, refreshing lager. That's what I
Nice.
like. That's my favorite thing to drink. I actually, since I started brewing beer, I gained a crazy appreciation
Oh, I
for
thought you were going to say wait. Yeah.
No.
I'm like, yep. Yeah, I know.
No,
I know how
no.
it feels.
Bud Light, Coors Light, American Light lagers in general.
And what's funny is that's the thing. Like you start in your craft beer, you're like, ugh, Bud and Bud
Yeah,
Light, Coors,
yeah.
and then you realize what it took to make that beer
All your
consistent
sins. All your sins
all
are
the
shown.
time,
Yeah.
everywhere, all around the country,
true.
in your many plants to be so goddamn consistent. You're like, well, there's something to be said for that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I don't truly enjoy drinking the Bud Light anymore, but I get it, I understand it, and I think it's really something to be proud of. At the same time, I'd probably like to drink just a local Pilsner because it just has a little more flavor, a little more, that fruitiness I enjoy in my Pilsners for sure. No, it's not there.
Okay. Jack.
Strictly fest beers and stouts.
Jesus.
Ooh.
My go-to right now.
You know what? We're
can
gonna go
thank Manny
to
for
let's
that.
go to Jack for the third question first because he was prepared the whole time. He was fest beers and stouts. He just knew exactly what to
Been
say.
holding on to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, question number 3 is
Yeah.
You go into a bar. What is that one beer from any time, any place, anywhere, except for the ones that you brew, that you will hope to see on tap?
I don't even know where it's from, but there's a beer called Crispy Squares. Yeah, it's weird. Tastes just like a cream soda. It was the weirdest thing I have ever had in my entire life. But it
Sounds like it's like a breakfast cereal, Pop-Tart minis going into a sour.
kinda, but it wasn't sweet, like overly sweet. It wasn't overly sour by any means, but that subtle vanilla, marshmallowy hint to it. It was probably a lager, now that I think of it, but it was super light, super drinkable. And I haven't had it in like 3 years, but I dream about it every single night. Every night.
That's awesome.
Where's that drink?
Exactly.
Oh my god, that does sound delicious. By the way,
It's
though,
so good.
That's awesome.
that's what we probably should have done with your cream ale. Maybe done like a vanilla orange creamsicle. I think that might have been more in tune with some people's taste palates. By the way, Steve, you can comment. No comment.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. It was good. I've had 2 already.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Wait till it gets warmer out.
Yeah. Should I-
So
hold
many
on.
people.
I have 2 more. So I'll
many
try-
people I've talked to are like,
Yeah.
bro, in the summer this would die. I go, I know.
Yeah.
Shut up.
So just hold on to it.
Yeah,
It
just
should be
hold on.
fine.
It'll be fine. Cream ale.
Steve did a collab with
8%,
Dubco.
8% cream ale.
8% cream ale with almond, lemon, and vanilla.
Yep.
Right.
Sicilian lemon, almond.
To speak of Dubco really quickly, they were super influential on our barrel aged stout. By the way,
They
definitely-
have a
they definitely helped out.
good barrel
so.
program over there.
Boys,
for sure.
boys are very helpful over there.
Yeah. They're willing to rising tide floats all ships, right? Is that the right
Yeah.
phrase? I usually fuck that up, but I'm serious. That's pretty much what's going on. That if we can elevate the Long Island beer scene, it means everything for everybody.
Totally agree with you. So one of the greatest things that I've noticed about opening up this business is the amount of support and just positive energy that you get from everyone else.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah, they've had impacts on everybody. Everyone that opens, I feel like everyone just goes out there, has the beer, gives them their 1-2, and kind of leaves them. And a lot of the brewers feel like that's really great information, because that's your real audience in the end, is someone with like minds, like palates, and that's what you're trying to strive to achieve, right? Did you ask the question?
Tom.
Oh, you did. All right, we went backwards on Jack. Okay, good.
Harp lager.
Hop.
Right.
I like harp.
He likes the hop.
I do.
It's the Irish in me.
Yeah. Some of my favorite things to get are just a black and tan.
Oh my God! Don't even get these boys started.
I love a good black and
You
tan.
hit it. You hit a nerve.
Black and tan for 2 weeks straight.
I mean,
I
St.
like-
Patty's Day is right around the corner.
Yes,
These
it
boys
is.
have been going black and tan.
We went over to whatever. Went over to I'm sorry, Crockley's. I couldn't think of the name of it, and ordered a Guinness. And I'm like, I just sat there and go, wish it was a black and tan. That's why I just stared at it, going, I like Guinness, but I just wish it was a black and tan. I also like Smittix and Guinness, or Killian's, red and Guinness. I love Guinness as like that backbone to other beers that complement it. It works very well for a lot of the things that I enjoy. So when I go out and I do one, I like a good black and tan.
Black and tan.
Feels good, yeah.
Manny.
Yeah, so I'm a Lagunitas IPA kind of guy.
Hey, there you go.
Really?
I
See, that's like right up with my dogfish. That's I consume that like an animal.
It's actually, we'll go out somewhere and it's like, oh man, they got Dogfish 60. I'm like, just get something else.
Nope.
He loves that 60 minutes.
Love the 60-minute. I probably buy a 12-pack a week.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. That's pretty much where I'm at this point, where I am watching a basketball game going 3 or 4 deep, and then the next day I'll have one with dinner, and then I'll take a day off, and then I'll have another 4 with another game, and then it's the weekend, and now I got to have 5 or 6.
well, yeah.
I got to update my portfolio, but I sprinkle in the craft beers, into that kind of schedule. That's, for me, that works, because I can have a bunch of those and enjoy myself without drinking heavy beer after heavy beer.
Well, and
after flavorful
and,
beer.
and 8-9%
Right. And listen, I'm sitting on my
freaking
couch, so I
hazies,
don't
and
care as much if
next
I'm
thing you
getting
know,
bombed.
you're like, well, I'm staying in for the night.
I just try not to pass out before 10 o'clock. That's really what it comes down to. I'm getting too old for this shit. I mean, it's like, I'm like Murtaugh. I'm getting too old
Get old for this shit.
So
But-
he, if you guys ever read his book, did you guys ever read it?
Murtaugh's?
No.
I'm just kidding.
From the founder of Lagunitas, I'm forgetting his name. But me being a total nerd, I did so much reading before I opened up the brewery, right? Even when I first started brewing beer, I really took it down to like a technical level where I was just reading books on like water aquifers and water clarification and all that kind of stuff, right? And his book was super inspirational. So it's how, Palo Alto or wherever, Lagunitas came to fruition, how he got started. And he did like things that I just do, right? Like I'm a very not conservative person where I'm just out there, right? Like even with the brewery now, like all my eggs are in one basket.
Right.
We're just rolling with it,
Yeah.
right? Because
Shooting from the hip.
because why not, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to do it. So
No risk, no reward. That's the phrase.
totally
right?
agree. And when I read his book, it was very. He did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like he sold his car to like buy like a like a kettle or something like that, right? Like he was just doing crazy things just to keep up with the brewery, which is which is crazy, but it's something that I would do. So
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with Sam
Yeah.
from Dogfish Head.
Yeah.
His family were eating out of the restaurant that they had opened their brew pub, and that's where they would eat every day because they had no money to buy groceries because everything was sunk into the business. But his wife was on board and like we're going to make this work, and lo and behold, he did.
So how does the brewery itself kind of stack up to what you and just going? What was that fourth question that you had last week? You asked a fourth question. You're like, this is a good fourth question, and I don't think that's what I was going with what I was about to say, but it had something to do with it. But how your overall kind of
you like to brew that?
yeah,
don't
nah.
remember.
The schedule and what you guys are putting out, the diversity and everything. You've been to other breweries. You've seen what they've done. How do you think your brewery stacks up to those others? Not in trying to be like competitive or anything, but in general, are you looking to diversify more so than other breweries? Equal, less? Like what's the game plan?
So you bring up a great question. So the one thing that I'm learning about commercial brewing now versus home brewing is there's a very intricate balance of the cadence of brewing. So what I find so funny,
But insofar as what you're putting out and the timing of everything,
it's crazy. Like when you have a small brewery, the cadence of brewing beer is everything. So since I'm there pretty much every day, I am there every day. Who am I kidding?
pretty much. I don't know.
But if we have a run on IPAs, or if we have a run on lagers, or if we have a run on Kolsch's or whatever, we just look at we eyeball it, right? So me, Tom, or Jack, we jump in our cold storage, which I thought was a pretty big cold storage box. Okay, I built it as big as we could. It takes up the majority of our space in our brewery. Where our cold storage, I think it's 24 feet by 12 feet. So I built it myself, right?
Okay.
Insulated it myself, did all that kind of stuff, and now we have roughly I think close to 100 kegs in there.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So limited space to kind of, like you said, move three things to get one thing out.
But this
They're
is
both going,
but this is our problem, right? Is
Yeah.
that we're stacked 3 kegs high and 2 kegs, and we're crawling over kegs to get to other kegs in order to, switch something out or whatever.
You were mentioned before you were going to try to get cold storage off site.
So we have cold storage offsite right now.
Yeah, you do already. So where is that? How did that come about? Just again for the sake of necessity, right? At this point.
100%. So we knew with the crowds that we've been getting and the traction that we've been getting, that is for the upcoming season, right?
Right.
The upcoming warm brewery season, which I've never truly experienced a spring like we're about to head in. We've only been open for 8 months.
Right, and that's the thing. Like you have not experienced the full strong season to date at this point. You got started late June, end of June. You got July, August, September, October. Like you said, it went through December. Now you're going to get it starting in April, May. The way the weather's going right now.
100%.
Yeah.
So
Couple extra months tacked on there.
yeah, definitely, and that's the reason why we have cold storage. Our cold storage space is actually at Beverage Barn, which is on Jericho Turnpike, where the brothers.
I know exactly
Greg,
where that is.
He's been great to us. Where
What's his name? Scott?
Greg.
Greg. Okay.
and he's been great to us. Where he's got a lot of storage and a lot of space that's in there. So we've just been stacking kegs away in there for the upcoming rush. Of the spring and the summer.
Quick funny thing about that. I was when I was working at Governor's here as a bartender for years. I would actually go past Governor's, go to Beverage Barn because they had one of the better selections of craft beer around. This was before a lot of the Home Ds really started piling into craft beer. He had a good selection.
He was one of the first places that ever had taps, if you remember.
I do, yeah.
Where you could fill a growler.
Yeah.
And I remember going there, and I was like, "What is this? Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah, is this legal? Can we actually just pour beer out of taps here? They had Maui Coconut Stout, which you couldn't find anywhere. You still can't probably find anywhere at this point because Kona's kind of flooded the market with Hawaiian beer, we'll call it. But their Coconut Stout was so fucking good. That beer I would seek out, and they were the only ones that I knew that had it after calling multiple places and looking around. So I would travel from my job out in Dix Hills all the way in here to go to Beverage Barn, get my 4-pack of 12-ounce cans, stick them in the ice behind the bar here, and that would be my drinks for the night because what we had here at the time wasn't really craft beer centric. We were pretty much, Stella, Guinness, that kind of stuff. And then slowly as I started working here, we started introducing Lagunitas IPA, and we got I forget what the other IPA was that we rotated in, but we finally got, Blue Point in a rotation, in a seasonal rotation, when we finally started getting the pumpkin beers, right before the pumpkin beers became so popular. We were like one of the first places that would do that and rim it correctly, not with the drippy shit all over the place where you just...
Yeah, Jack, you hear that? Work on your drip
God,
game.
no honey. You can't see. It's got to be water, and then you rim and it turns into rock candy, and then it's just so slight, it's perfect. But that's the thing. It's like there's so many like little stories that go on in and around this area that... Well, damn, I mean, Beverage Barn was one of the places that really kind of stood out over the years, and since then I haven't been back since I stopped working here, but it's known to me. And I remember, actually, even before that, I was at a sticker stop for Opie and Anthony. As a radio guy, Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern, all those guys in the radio craze, they did a sticker stop at Beverage Barn, and they closed down the street. That's how many people came out on that little corner there.
Yep.
Holy cow, I remember people just losing their minds, people standing on cars. And I'm like, we're at a Beverage Barn and people losing their minds. And those two things between the Maui Coconut Stout and Sticker Stop. And I went to Nassau Community College and Hofstra, by the way. So, I mean, it's all been in this area. Fantastic kind of like memories of that place. And I'm glad that they still are doing great. And
so if you remember Greg, he's a big German dude.
Yeah.
Big guy.
And they had a ton of German and Polish imports.
100%.
Holy cow.
My brother-in-law is actually from Germany, and he would go there just for their German beer.
Their selection is...
So they bonded over that, and that's how we got the hookup.
Really?
Getting the,
That's interesting. Yeah, I used to go in there specifically for the Dunkel because they had it all year round there. All year round. It's one of the only places I could find that has it. Now you can get it a little more often in other places, but yeah, that Beverage Barn, that's where their cold storage... Extra cold storage is.
Yeah, it's funny that you say the Dunkel's there because Memphis is my favorite beer that's on our menu, and it's a fest beer. But I keep it on all the time.
Yeah,
so
delicious.
That's it.
So let's get into those beers because that's really like the mainstay of what we want to talk about. Besides all the stories and the fun stuff, I started off with the IPA, but let's talk about let's have the Memphis. Let's talk about it since you mentioned it. Break us down on this beer. You don't have to give away all the secrets, but tell us a little bit about this, the profiles, and all that other stuff.
No, for sure. So, like I told you, one of the growing up on Long Island, everyone starts drinking at 13 in the dugouts of baseball fields.
Oh yeah,
and,
behind the
right?
finest.
Yeah, and then
with crooked eyes.
Yeah,
that's what I would drink.
And then, like every
St.
idiot,
Ides.
you're walking on the train tracks, going down, drinking your Bud Ice 6-pack with your friend, and
Red Dog Ice,
getting your St. Ides and everything else at the bodegas.
Oh yeah, crooked eye. You gotta get the crooked eyes going. They were delicious.
So, like I said, I mean, I've always liked Blue Point Toasted Lager. I thought for Long Island beers, that's like the first one that I can really remember.
Yeah.
And so why not mimic your first beer that you're trying to brew and brew it well after like a classic? And so, we use majority. It's mostly 2-row.
Okay.
So since we're a New York State Farm brewery license, whatever the hell that means.
Checks off one of the questions on Steve's list.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figured once he
Yeah.
said he was selling cider.
Yeah. So the majority of our malt comes from Hudson Valley.
Okay.
It's this guy Dennis and his wife. Great guy.
Small place, huh?
Small place. Yeah.
Do they have a lot of contracts with people down here, or is it mostly?
Yeah. So I know a couple of the contracts that he does with a couple of the other breweries. Again, for the New York State license, gives us a lot of tax benefits and stuff like that.
For sure.
So it made sense for us to source most of our grain from there. But going back to Memphis, I just wanted something that was plain, but I like the maltiness in beers. It's something that we've kind of lost, I feel like, along the way, and something that you can just crush. So I think the beer is at like 5.2%, just super clean, super easy, traditional German hops, and that's pretty much it. So
It's pretty cool that you've encapsulated your dog's name into a beer that will now probably be a staple for years to come at the brewery, right? It's kind of
yeah. So everyone always asks where the names come from, and it's interesting because I've been working on these beers for a long time.
I was right, though. You're about to go on a story. I was right about the dog thing, right?
100%.
I was like, hope it wasn't like a great grandfather.
No,
that just totally
no,
screwed this
no.
up.
So-
I'm like, oh, it's not a dog. It's the freaking
No, it
family
is.
member.
So,
I'm like, oh, okay.
number one question that everyone asks is like, where did you come up with the names from the brewery, right? And so all the names are from either people, places, or things that were super important to me. And Memphis was my first dog ever. If you guys ever had dogs before,
First one now.
First one.
She's 3.
Yeah, first one is it's important,
Yeah,
right?
it's Actually, I would call a beer Mave. That's a good beer name. Mave. Easy, right? Memphis is a great name. Love that name. How'd you name the dog Memphis? Or did the family name?
No, so it was my dog.
Okay.
Like, how do you name anything? I mean,
That's true.
my dog's name now is Wookie, and everyone always tells me like you named him after Star Wars.
Yeah.
I've never watched a Star Wars movie in my life,
Okay.
right? So I just like the name Wookie.
Yeah.
See, I would have said after Wookie Jack from Firestone.
Oh,
Walker's
yeah, that's good
Black
too.
IPA.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Great beer.
Yeah.
But how do you name any beer?
Right.
And so when you're being as scientific as I was with all these beers and everything, I didn't really veer off the path. I was just being, again, a total nerd where I was just having one beer like Memphis, changing one or two variables and sticking with it and brewing it for months in a row. And I know it sounds super redundant or whatever, but it's what I did, right? So, yeah, just like I said, like brewing beer and with Blue Point Toasted Lager and everything, just I love that beer, so I wanted just to mimic that beer.
Sure.
So
Many brewers start out that way too. They want to mimic something that they truly like, but then make it their own. Like, yeah, I really like that, but I want to do this to it. One of the first beers that I brewed that I had a lot of was in ESB because I liked that style, that maltiness. I was not into really bitter hoppiness. I wanted that nice malt background, and everybody loved it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's I don't know.
What did you name that beer?
What was that beer?
Huh.
I couldn't even tell you anymore.
I'm really hooked on the name now because now I'm thinking like shit. It's got to be
Oh.
more and more as you go through. As time passes, it's got to be so limiting with the amount of breweries that name beers. You don't want to mimic a name. You don't want to copy that name.
Yeah,
You
this was Evil Bitch ESB.
Yeah, no one's gonna do that one.
No.
So that
And so many women would come into the brewery and go, "Oh, I see you made a beer after me."
yeah.
I'm like, well, whatever you say, and I feel sorry for your husband. So,
If you're already counting yourself out. No, that's not the word.
Yeah, no.
Calling yourself out. That's what it is. All right. Anyway, so the Memphis lager. What's the conditioning time on this? Well, how long are you letting this?
too long.
Just
So
too-
this is the problem, and this is what I was
Tom's
telling
already
you.
like, yeah, it's way too fucking long.
This is the problem with cadence of brewing, and this is
Yeah.
where I'm learning it, right? So as a home brewer, you have unlimited time.
sure.
because the only people who are drinking are Tom's friends, right? So,
Yep.
All three of them.
And they're functioning alcoholics.
Yes.
and this is the interesting thing about owning a brewery, and anyone who's looking to go into this space is the timing is crazy.
Yeah.
So if you're running low on one beer, then you have to switch your whole plans and, make sure that you have the ingredients on board, you have everything else, and that you can just switch on a dime and brew that beer. And so Memphis takes a long time. It's 3 months.
Jeez. Yeah, and so you got to factor that into your schedule, your tank time, everything else.
So when we first opened up, I had that time, right? I had the time before opening date where we could release or whatever. And then, you start taking shortcuts, and then Memphis doesn't taste like Memphis anymore. And then you have to start doing some other things.
A lot of people do that, right? I'm sure they go through it. They're like, how can I cut this in half? Or how can I cut this time?
Sure.
And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, no, I can't
Time
do
is
that.
money.
It's not going to be. Right.
Time is money in brewing.
Now, you said a 3-barrel system, correct?
So it's 3.5, but we push it. We push it to 4.
Okay.
So
And what size fermenters, uni tanks
And
you
there
guys
you go.
got?
So it's also 3.5, but we also push it to 4. We go basically right up to
the
the
brim.
top where the thing is overflowing. So I always found it interesting because people say that you need the headspace, right, in order for yeast to ferment and everything, and I totally understand that. I haven't had any problems with it yet with any of our beers.
I don't feel anything in anything we've drank tonight where that leftover flavor is there.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So I wouldn't even know even if you didn't mention it.
So one of the thank you. So one of the things that I've always liked about our beers, and I've talked a lot about Tom and Jack about this, is I hate lingering astringency. Right. So lingering astringency is like whether you didn't do a diacetyl rest for too long, or you just just messed up your beer and whatever. Right. So. If we get that lingering astringency, I think it's like the number one turnoff. Where
Agreed.
when you finish a beer, it's supposed to finish, and it's supposed to finish clean. If it doesn't finish clean, and you have that bitterness or astringency on the end of your palate, and then all you want to do is drink another sip, and then when you drink a couple sips, you're like, I can't drink this anymore, right?
Yeah, it messes with your mind and your palate in general. One of those things that I don't like when I get a beer from, let's say microbreweries or smaller nano-based breweries where you have that leftover yeast, just lingering there. And you're like, I like a good bready, that feel of the beer. But when you can't get rid of it all and you can't drop it the way it should be.
I know the brewery.
I know you know.
And I'm not going to mention them.
And listen, so that
because you
brings me-
say it every time.
I know.
So
well, I say it not on air to
Right,
you.
you say it to me.
So the beer that you're drinking right now is La Citra. So that one I feel has a great like bready upfrontness to it.
Agreed.
And it's like it's crisp.
I
It's
like
easy.
I like the color of it because it's not that first IPA that we had before was that juice. It's juice. This drink's clean. This drink's more like I can have a ton of these.
Super interesting, right?
Yeah.
So one of my most hated things is when a brewery finds a great recipe and the only thing they do is they just change the hops and they just call it something else.
Well, that's isn't that everybody? It doesn't. At this point, when you're going through 15 labels a month, that's what you're doing.
When
right?
you're a brewery that releases
yeah.
190 new beers a
Right.
year,
There's no way you can make 190 new
I'm
recipes a year.
thinking it's the same recipe and you're switching in some hops.
So you do 60-40 and then 40-60 and then 35-80-65, whatever it is, and you just keep doing that until
Totally agree with you guys. So
It's gotta be that.
if you were to see the difference in the coloration of the two beers that you drank, like it's something that I kind of prided myself on when we brewed IPAs. Like,
Yeah. we want to see the difference in the flight too. So let's say someone comes
100,
in and they have the
100%.
4 beers stacked up next to each other. You don't want to see the same thing for 4 times. Like, wait a second, that's a lager, that's an IPA, that's it doesn't make any sense. You want to see the coloration differences and then associate that with the flavor profile that you're having.
For sure. It's funny that you mentioned that because we've been to a couple of other breweries where we get a flight and they all look exactly the same. And you can't differentiate which one is which.
You lose shit like
You lose track of
is
the
that
of
the
the
IPA?
beers. Yeah.
Which number is this?
Well, I've said it many times to guys that are like crazy haze boys, and I'm like, I will put 5 beers from different breweries, all the same brewery, and ask you to name that beer. You're never
No
getting
way.
it. Yeah. You're never getting
Unless
it.
it's like all the same hop. I'm a hazy boy. I can tell my hops. I can tell my Citra Mosaic, Nelson for sure, because I don't like it as much. Some of my New Zealand hops, I know the profile of those. Maybe El Dorado because of its very specific, and definitely any West Coast IPAs. Like if you give me Cascade or Centennial or something like that, that's really piney or danky. I could tell those differences. But when you start mixing several hops together, whether it's Citra and Mosaic, and then you go Mosaic and Citra, I would have no clue.
Well, again, if you go to like one of the big hazy producers on the East Coast,
Yeah.
and you take
A line of them.
line of their cans and you put them out and you just blind pour them.
Like Treehouse, you couldn't tell the difference between Julius and I don't know what's the purple can. I just go by colors.
Haze.
Yeah. And then green, right? It'd be tough to.
Well-
I could tell Julius, I think, but haze and green without seeing it taste wise, I don't know if I could tell you the difference now. But I also don't drink a shit ton of Treehouse. I have it once in a while, but
this is what I'm
but if you're in the area,
when you put out and I'm not saying it's them,
right?
there's someone else.
Yeah,
When you put out that many brand new beers,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So even with what we're trying to do, we're not trying to per se bring out new beers, but what's really nice, and this is like the underlying scientist in me, is we just change one or two variables, and if we like the change in the recipe, then we keep it and we move forward.
You
right?
ditch
So-
the old, move on with the new.
So at Somerset, you will have something that's very similar, but never the same beer.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I mean, that's more along the lines of keeping the moral compass on what you're doing moving forward, as
Yeah,
opposed to
because
just
then-
try to screw with the audience. Like,
Because
yeah,
then,
we're just gonna do
because
this.
then you're just brewing the same thing over
Right,
and over
I
again,
mean,
right? Like how can you? And what's
I'm gonna
really
call
nice,
it-
and we've done this, right? So
Yeah.
in our stout series, we've definitely done this. So we have saved some kegs of stout where I really wanted to see what the difference was. So I always believed that the extra oxidation on stouts gets it a little bit better, right? Like just aging it just in the keg for. Now we have one that's been in there for, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months, something like that. So we have Helen 1, Helen 2, Helen 3, Helen 4, and Helen 5.
and it's all about the timing and
all
and
about the
sitting.
timing. And
Huh.
as we've gotten better, as we've brewed more of them, I feel like it's gotten better.
Are you
right?
going backwards through the series then? You're letting one sit for a very long time and drinking 5 almost immediately and working your way back?
Yeah, but it's nice to save a keg of it. And for any home brewer, that's what's like beautiful about stouts, lagers, kolsch's, pilsners, right?
Yeah.
With IPAs, it's
It'll
funny
fall off.
if you don't move it quick,
Yeah.
and people drink that beer that you're drinking, which we call a Citra, it changes drastically, right?
Tell me about this, because this is, like I said, light drinking, almost weedy in color. And
Totally
that
agree with you.
it's-
So I'm not a hophead,
Okay.
right? So
but this is very West Coasty Lagunitas like, so that's probably
so
why
I
you enjoy it so much.
lightly dry hop my beers, not to the point where they're crazy fruity. So
Okay.
to me, with drinking beers, I'd rather drink something than chew on hops. Like
Okay.
I think we've gone in a direction where we've gotten away from drinking beers, and now we're just eating things, right? So like
Milkshake IPA.
it's just too chewy. Like
Yeah,
who-
I know.
I don't enjoy that. I
No.
mean, that's just me.
It's too
right?
heavy, like we were saying before
And,
with the other
and what I
things.
find funny is, Tom over here, I think, is in line with my thinking. Jack will drink milkshakes all day. You know? So-
He liked the creamsicle, so obviously it's pastry stouts for days. You would have loved Barrage. Too bad he wasn't 21 while you were open. I mean, would have liked what's the yada yada yada, freaking Snickers bar.
But yeah, I agree with you. So that beer, super lightly dry hopped.
Yeah.
There is not too much that's in that beer. It's basically, what do we put? Malted oats.
Given that light color,
Yeah.
yeah,
That gives you that mouthfeel.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of initially tastes a little piney, but then the residue is more of the fruity, but not over the top like you were saying, and it kind of is a nice balance. Now, which ones were you calling Long Island IPAs?
So neither
Neither of those.
Neither
ones
of the ones that you
Okay.
have are Long Island IPAs.
Okay.
So we have other cleaner ones, which I call just old man IPAs.
Just
but
clear IPAs that people enjoy.
listen, I mean,
I like 'em.
You're talking about, if you guys remember, a great IPA that I used to love was Green Flash.
Oh yeah, of course.
Great beer. So Green Flash, that was the whole era of Stone IPA, Green Flash IPA, and then you had
Sierra
Lagunitas,
Nevada.
Sierra Nevada,
Oh yeah.
all clear IPAs, like
Yep.
up my alley.
Yep.
I will drink those all day, every day, and it's funny. Like I can't drink the hop headiness of the IPAs. I mean, again, going back into a chemistry background, when you have so many complex polysaccharides and everything, it just sits in your gut, and
Yeah.
that gut, it ends up turning into
Fat that's right in me right now. Even though I'm a skinny, I should be freaking 170 pounds. I'm now 205, and it's all right here in my beer gut because that's what happens after you drink so much fucking craft beer.
No, you drink 60-minute IPA.
Yeah, a lot of them. I drink 6 probably within a sitting. So let's really hear about the barrel aged stout that you guys brought. Aged in Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace. Yep.
Wow. So let's start with the base. What's the base IP? So the base stout that you guys use.
So we use the same stout. It's called Helen.
Okay. So it's in that series that we were talking about before. Okay.
100. So it's a coffee chocolate stout. Helen, I believe, is about 5.8%. We pick up a little bit more of that. Helen comes off super coffee-ish. So the only thing that I drink more than beer is coffee.
Okay.
All day, all I do is drink
I think I
coffee,
agree.
beer, and then that's basically what I drink all the time.
I'm close. In between the coffee and the beer is a Gatorade just for refreshment, and then I'm back to beer towards the end of the day. I agree with you. Yeah, it's coffee all day.
But in my field, I run on coffee, right?
yeah.
All day, every day. And so we have a coffee chocolate stout that, from a homebrewing perspective, it's really interesting, right? Like a Buffalo Trace, any barrel for that matter, is 65 gallons, right? What maniac who's a homebrewer is going to fill 65 gallons with a stout?
Quadruple brew day.
Tom's over there going.
Tom is going to brew 7 days in a row.
I've done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, and then where do you store it in between the batches?
I totally agree with you.
Filling
So
up the...
from a homebrewing perspective, and this is where the guys from Dubco were super helpful. We also asked Tim from the Brewers Collective.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys know Tim.
Great,
So
great resource.
Yeah, so me and Tom went out there and we were just talking barrels, right? And make a very long story short, the one thing about getting a barrel is how do you source a Buffalo Trace Kentucky bourbon
How do
barrel?
you even get one, right? How the fuck do I obtain a Buffalo Trace Kentucky bourbon?
I'll give you guys a quick story.
God.
So there,
You knocked off a stagecoach.
So I'm sitting behind the bar. There's this guy with this crazy British accent. Sits at the bar and is drinking all day, having cider, drinking a million ciders. And he goes, "Do you guys ever barrel age anything?" And I was like, "No, because I can't find a barrel from anywhere." And he's like, "All right, I'll bring you some." And this guy's 10 ciders deep. I just thought he was just blowing smoke up my ass or whatever.
And where'd you meet him?
Just at the bar, just
Really?
at the brewery bartending. So 2 days later, we're brewing in the garage, and hear a knock on the door. I open up the garage, big bay door, and this British guy just handed in the back of his Ford F-150. There's 2 Kentucky-based Buffalo Trace barrels just sitting there.
What?
I was like,
Where the hell did you come from?
I was like, what is going on? So make a very long story short, he does a lot of business that's in Kentucky with a lot of like the bourbon, the whiskey, the whatever. And I met a lot of these guys later on down the road. So gave him a whole bunch of beer from there.
He's like the Kingsman, right? The movie The Kingsman, with then the second one where they had the guys from Kentucky, right? They're making the bourbon, and it was the Kingsman, but it was, what was that called? Help me out. What was
I
the
don't
name
know. I
of
didn't
the
see the movie.
American-based Kingsman?
I didn't see the movie.
You didn't see the movie? Oh, that's a good one. I don't like it. Oh God. Well, why? I'll think of it. I'll think of it.
All right.
But yeah, same thing. It's like they have this kind of thing with the whiskey and stuff that they brew over there, and they have this obsession with bourbon over here in the States.
So again, just to source the barrel and then just to ship the barrel, all that in itself is just outrageously expensive to the point where, how much are you going to charge for a beer? You're going to charge like $20 for a beer when it finally comes to fruition. But he brought us over the barrels, and as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, tomorrow we're brewing the stout to fill this thing up. So, we fermented out the stout, and again,
stout shower.
Yeah.
Filling up the barrel.
Yeah. So
Statesman. How come I couldn't think of it? Kingsman and Statesman is the bourbon they've made. Sorry, had to get that in there. It would drive me crazy. It's my ADD. Sorry.
And then when we we knew nothing about filling up a whiskey barrel with beer. Had no idea what to do. And then again, great thing about the brewing community, we went out to the Brewers Collective. We talked to Tim. We went out to Dubco, talked to John and Paul and all those other great guys that are at Dubco.
Yeah.
And they gave us great knowledge, just what to do, wet the barrel, put the beeswax on the barrel. And then what's beautiful about this business, right, is we met a guy who is a beekeeper in West Hempstead who gave us beeswax for the barrel.
Jesus. They had everything you needed right
Plugging
there.
that barrel
What do
was
you
a
need?
great
What do you?
time, though.
Yeah. What do you need for the
Pretty great
beeswax?
time.
Explain this to me. I don't think I know this about barrel
For the
aging.
staves. Because they will leak.
You got to plug the thing. If it's not sufficiently soaked,
Yep.
saturated,
Right.
where it swells.
'Cause
Right. So
barrels
it's
dry
and they
out.
crack.
But-
So what do you coat the inside part with the
No,
beeswax?
the outside.
The outside, just to
Plug
seal
the-
that
you,
in.
you heat the inside,
Okay.
Ideally, it would be already.
and
sweet.
then
Yeah. You're getting it fresh and
you rub the wax on it.
Okay.
And then as it cools, it will.
like sex wax, like a surfboard.
Yeah, basically.
Really?
So if you can see me and Tom's faces as we're pouring all this delicious beer into this barrel, and it's just exploding out. It's just,
dive underneath.
Just
It's,
underneath
it's
the
like-
coming through the cracks.
it's an absolute
Literally.
it's an absolute disaster, right? And so
Sounds delicious though.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
I mean, you guys have obviously this is the stories of startup breweries, right? Trying to figure this kind of stuff out. What other major things have happened along the way? I know we saw a post before you tell the story. We saw a post. We were Concernicus for sure about the tanks on the deck planking that we saw on the post, and we're like, I hope they're not brewing there. And thank God it was just for storage. And meanwhile, while you were doing things. Like, what else? Did you get anybody commenting on that? Like, oh, dude, bro, that's a little dangerous. Like,
yeah, for sure. So
I know it sounds silly, but people just see a picture and see 1,000 words, right?
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like,
No, I totally agree with you. So again, we have super limited space.
Right.
And what's crazy?
the only way to go is up, you said.
I mean, we have 2,000 square feet of space, which to me in the beginning was like, wow, it's a decent size, right?
Yeah.
We have 2,000 square feet of inside and roughly 4,000 square feet of outside space, which
Right.
is, hey,
Yeah, I'll take it.
not a bad space, right? So things led to things, and then we were just like, oh my God, we have merchandise, we have growlers, we have cans, we have more grain, we have this, we have that. And then just looking at the space, there was only one way to put these things. So when I bought everything, I brought out my little graphing paper, I brought out my ruler, and I squared everything away to where I knew everything would sit in the brewery.
Right.
So instead of just buying the 3.5 barrel system that we have, we also bought a 10 barrel system because I knew that we just had the space.
Right, and it could expand to that as you go along.
100%.
Right, yeah.
So that was like phase B.
Yeah.
I didn't think that we would get to phase B in like 4 months.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I mean, they're good problems to have, but
I thought it would take a year and a half, 2
Yeah.
years to get to using the 10 barrel system. So yeah, you're totally right. So we just ran out of space. I was like, all right, we couldn't like store it anywhere, and I want to pay for storage, so we were just like, just lift it
Beverage
up.
Barn isn't going to give you more on top.
You put it on the roof.
It would make a really nice, thing. You see the barn, and then you see the tanks up top.
But yeah, thank you to all the engineers who were like, that thing's gonna break. Yes, I understand that. That's
We're not filling them.
yeah,
just,
just putting the tanks up
Yeah.
there just so that we can clear some space underneath.
yeah, we had fun reading the comments. That's why we were mentioning it.
yeah.
We're like, oh boy. But yeah, I mean, for the overall point, you're just trying to make the best of it as you're growing, probably more considerably than you thought you would over the 4 months that really the faster months are coming up. So how do you cope with all that? Like, the stress has to build up. You still have your job. You're still doing all this. These guys still. I mean, it's what's the key to kind of keeping it all together?
Yeah, for sure. So you're seeing the keys actually next to me. So Tom and Jack have been a blessing, and so I know.
Even though Tom annoyed you for a little bit.
I still
of his
want
as his
shirt,
constant badgering.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Tom and all was badgering, and then Jack definitely have outrageously helped. So,
Yeah.
I knew that I couldn't sustain it. Working in the medical field, working 24, 30 hours is nothing to me, right? So, I'm no spring chicken anymore. I'm 40 years old. And so,
Let's get to that point. Yeah.
having Tom and Jack to definitely carry some of that load. Like I knew I could do it for a couple of months, and when we opened up, and I was really cranking out that time or whatever. But it's a beautiful thing. So when you start your own business or whatever, and for any small business owner, as long as you just see the potential in it and you see that you have a product that people think is pretty good. And then you got to a point where you're trying to make it as fast as possible, and you just need help in that regard.
Yeah.
Again, Tom and Jack have been great. I worked a shift at the hospital all day today.
Yeah.
And I didn't brew a single beer today, but they did it. So.
Well, there you go. You need good hands on deck, pretty much. You need that support system that, having them around definitely alleviates the pressure and the pain.
When I had gone to it was a seminar at CBC, and they were talking about, opening a brewing and everything. And they were like, look, you're going to be the guy that's going to wear every hat. Even if you just take one of those hats off, you give it to somebody, it's going to alleviate so much time, pressure, just one hat.
So I'll give you a life in Somerset Brewing the other day. So this just happened last Wednesday.
What are you talking about?
Tom's like, man, it could be anything.
Yeah. So many things have happened.
That Manny doesn't know about. But.
we don't want to mention those things.
So I'm at the hospital. I'm finishing up my shift. I think it was about 5 o'clock or whatever. We're getting back to the brewery, and so our normal brew day it takes a while. It takes about 9 hours, right? So
Wow,
give or take.
How many batches are you doing in those 9 hours?
Just one batch.
Oh.
But we brew twice. We take our time.
Okay.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So they text me and they're like, "Hey, man, are you back anytime soon?" And so so while they were moving some stuff or whatever, they knocked off the
fitting to the compressor, the air compressor.
Oh.
We're moving a couch from our loft upstairs. We store a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We're trying to make space because we have no space.
Oh.
So we're moving the couch out. And me and someone who's not here, who's also part of our team, Connor, we're moving a couch. We hit into the fitting, tap into this fitting that goes in whatever to the tank.
And it
snaps. Boom.
Beer or just air?
Just air.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this
Thank
is
God
the
for
air
that.
compressor that we use for cleaning our
keg
kegs
cleaner.
and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so
So it's a run to another utility area where you're using that, yeah.
yeah, so I come home.
God.
So I have to grab all new fittings.
upstairs
I plumb it all out or whatever, and everything is good. And then 5 minutes later, we realize that there's a clog in our plumbing, right?
Trap.
So
trap
if you
that
ever
we
own a
got.
brewery, the one thing that you always need to make sure, and you have to make sure that your trap is all good and gravy, right? So the night before, someone used too much toilet paper, tampons, whatever, and clogged the trap.
No.
So we went from putting
And that-
fittings
did that come
on
up in the brew
And
house?
the brew is going on
So
at the same time now.
they were brewing. Connor was actually super aware of it. Noticed that the water just wasn't draining or whatever. And then this is if you've ever dealt.
Well, it's typical stuff, right?
Yeah, it's just typical stuff. So open up the trap and everything out. Was basically waiting in shit for about an hour and a half, and then just snake some
Throughout those
things.
boots, throughout those pants.
Yeah, that's the beauty of scrubs. So
There
took
you go.
the scrubs, threw it right in the dumpster.
I hope you weren't wearing the
and-
Crocs.
When it
Crocs and
rains-
socks.
Yeah, when
Oh,
it rains,
God.
it floods shit.
What other? So we went over this IPA, that stout, the lager. What about that first IPA that I had?
So the first IPA that you had was called Surgical Precision.
That's
so,
right. Okay, yeah, that's what.
So my dad is a trauma surgeon who is grandfathered into breast cancer oncology.
Oh,
So,
hey, my wife sells journals for ASCO and JADPRO and those oncology journals.
I know what you're talking about. So
It's funny 'cause I knew you'd get it. Yeah, she works for a local company on Long Island that does those publications. It's pretty cool.
So Surgical Precision is probably our number one selling IPA.
For
I would
sure.
say, right, Jack?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's a juice bomb.
Yeah, it's a juice bomb.
Yeah, probably not up your alley.
Yeah, it's
because
funny that you mentioned it
I
because
like it a
all
lot.
the hops that you mentioned before are all the hops that are basically, that
All
are
of the
basically
hops.
in it, right?
Yeah.
So it's Citra, it's Mosaic. I think the percentage on it is 6.8,
That's pretty good.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's drinkable. It's not knock you out in 16-ounce can or growler. or
Even
something like
with any beer, I've always liked the sweet spot of being between 5 and 7. I think 5 and 7 is like a good beer,
agree,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Sure.
I've always said this. I'd rather drink 7 5% beers than 5 7% beers, right?
that. Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so Surgical Precision, one of the very first beers that I started brewing when the whole hop head craze started to happen and stuff like that. Brewed with a ton of wheat, a ton of oats.
Yeah.
You get that dark hue. So we put, I think, a little bit of caramel malt in it. I think it's 60 and 80.
That's what gives it that kind of orange, juicy look to
And
it.
so, I mean, beers more than anybody. So that beer is mimicked off of Hills Farmstead Edward.
okay, on Edward, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I like Edward too. And I like, you know what? It also reminded me of Maine Brewing lunch. A little bit of lunch in there. That kind of juicy feel to it. Yeah.
But
for
if
sure.
if you give me any IPA that I'm going to drink, it will probably be a Hills Farmstead. If you guys have never been, beautiful.
I haven't been to it. I've had plenty of them.
Beautiful place.
I know. I got to get up there.
Gorgeous. It's in the
That
middle
and
of
Suarez I gotta get to,
goddamn
too.
nowhere, bro.
Yeah, I know. I
Middle
know.
of nowhere.
You got to just go there. It's not like you're gonna be planning anything and pass through.
So I was snowboarding in Killington. I was like, oh, let's just go to Hills Farmstead. It's in Vermont, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like 4.5 hours northwest or wherever the hell it was.
Plattsburgh, borderline, kind of crazy. It's one of those places, along with many of those other ones. Like I've been to Magic Hat Brewery, I've been to Killington, but yeah, to try to get to those in like a family trip to trying to travel through, it's tough. But that's why I said Binghamton. To me, I'm up in Syracuse twice a year. That's my stop, man. I go in there and I find a bunch of great breweries. And like I said, we finally got Beer Factory to kind of commit to a date this year. And I'm excited because same thing. They're just producing massive amounts of labels, so much beer on the tap list, and a New York State brewery. Same thing as you guys. That's been the mantra since day one. It's not just local here on Long Island, but try to get New York State on the map, which obviously it is. And now we've extended beyond that and just made Northeast kind of our thing. I really freaking enjoyed every beer we've had tonight. Really appreciate what you guys are doing, and no wonder everyone's talking good stuff about everything you guys have been producing.
Yeah, thank you. Greatly appreciate it. So, and again, thanks for having us.
I want to give you an opportunity, and marketing manager Jake over there that wants to speak. Your camera went out, so we'll hear you, but we may not see you. I've turned it on 3 times now. I don't know what the hell's wrong with that thing. But give us a little breakdown of contact information, where people can find information about the brewery, what's going on, taproom hours, what people can expect from the experience when they come, all that other good stuff. I'll give you guys the floor.
Sure. I mean, the best way to find us, just show on up. I mean, if you know a guy who's been there,
Yeah, Jack knows our marketing strategy is no marketing.
it's crazy. I have my master's in marketing.
Just show up.
And I mean, I don't really do much with that.
What days? What days you guys open?
So we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday, Friday, 3 to 11. Saturday, 12 to 11, and then Sunday, 12 to 8. So
That's a good formula. I found that like some breweries come open, like Tuesday, Wednesday, but the cost of opening and operating versus the number of people that may come out doesn't really quite match unless you really have accrued, some big name status.
Yeah,
at
so
that
I've been
point.
open 8 months.
to say,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I would love to say that's the reason that we do it, but
Right.
we are so small that we need to move everything into
Yeah.
our tap room area in order to brew beer.
yeah.
Right.
So our brewing days are normally Monday and Wednesday.
Okay.
So like we're always like right up against it, and it's funny because we always say this is we look at each other Wednesday after brew day and we're like, God damn it,
We gotta clean
we
everything
gotta
up and get ready for
open up
tomorrow.
this place up again. Yeah,
Oh,
so
God.
small brewery problem.
Yeah, yes. So the Instagram, the Facebook, Twitter, all that other good stuff is out there. Website is somersetbrewing.com.
I think it's
Pretty sure that's it.
Yeah.
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 No spaces.
No space. That's what people done. They're like, underscore. That screws everything up. Gentlemen, really appreciate you guys being on. Again, great beer, and we wish you the best of luck. Anything before we get out of here? Anything else you want to mention? Some big events that are coming up? Anything planned for the next few months?
yeah. So Jack and Tom love Black and Tans. They've been
Yes, it's going to be a black and tan night.
yes, they
coming up
have
in the
been
brewery.
trying
Yeah,
to
just
Tan and
They've-
black. Tan and black.
Any plans to brew black IPA? Any recipes
so
somewhere?
that's up Tom's alley.
Yeah, I love a black IPA. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Soon everything.
Yeah.
In time, everything.
Nothing is off the table.
Yeah, we're gonna have like an offshoot of Tom's basement. And Tom is just gonna
It's like
brew.
Springdale and what's the other one?
no,
And
no.
Jack's Abbey.
You might not come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uber Geek and Synergy Beer Project.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they could just do the crazy
Does
stuff on
two-
Synergy and
Yep, and then do
and
the regular
Uber Geek, the
stuff on Uber
traditional
Geek.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, again, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in. Manny, Tom, and Jack from Somerset Brewing Company. Go to somersetbrewing.com and check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Awesome, dude. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you guys
Really
so
appreciate
much.
it. This is
Yeah.
where with Mike
Shout
and
out
Steve.
to Connor Kramer.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yep,
Shout out to
yep,
the other team
yep.
member there.
For sure.
This is where with Mike, Pete, and Steve, GubsRadio.com. Pete's not with us tonight. Any? I didn't hear from him this week.
He was at the curling championship.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, up in Norway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I knew he was on vacation with the
Yeah,
family.
yeah,
I saw
curling.
pictures of snow and ice and skiing.
He's
and
the stone holder. I don't know what that is.
he
said.
holds the stones.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's pretty much as far as
Yeah.
I'm willing to go with that. But yeah, our other partner, Pete, is off doing bigger things than the show, jackass. And really appreciate
Fucking bastard, yeah.
Steve for pulling the weight again tonight.
trying.
That's why we put you in the tripod mode. Steve, any last words before we get on out here?
Yes. Make sure when you're shoveling outside, you bend at your knees.
Bend at your knees,
Not
and
with
you
the
don't
back.
get a second hernia.
You don't get a hernia.
Yeah. This is the Word with Mike, Pete, and Steve, GubsRadio.com. Thanks a lot for joining us. Check us out in 2 weeks for our next show. And, of course, our show is available in podcast form on Spotify, the Hopped Up Network, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and I think that's it. So, this is the Word with Mike, Pete, and Steve, GubsRadio.com. And we out.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, by the way, it's shitty outside.
Well, that's 2 hours of your life that you'll never get back.
Are you kidding me?
Please hang up and try again.
This has been The Wort on Govs Radio. I hope you're drunk enough.